Hello everyone. Welcome along for round 2 of the Vertex Super Lab series. We are here at Watkins, Glen International. After a really good start to the season in round 1, a very competitive start to the season round at Road Atlanta, our guys take it all the way to the East Coast for Watkins Glen action. Again, like last time, we will have 3 classes in the Vertex Super Lab series. We have the Clubman Modified and the Unlimited class. The Clubman being a 550 pp class on sports mediums, Modified 650 on sports softs, and Unlimited obviously with no pp limits but only on racing hard tires. The format remains the same with 20-minute sessions with only one class on track for each session, with each class having 2 sessions, totaling up to 6 sessions. The session order will be Clubman, Modified, and Unlimited. The setting for today's event would be the Watkins Glen International, a very popular track here in the USA, used by IMSA, IndyCar, and of course a very popular venue for time attack events as well. 5.5 kilometers, 15 turns, the longest straight being the main straight at 660 meters, but obviously sector 1 is going to be a fast section, being broken up by the bus stop chicane, going on to the very technical section, the section 2 of the boot, and then the heel, going back to the final section, looping all the way into the start finish straight. Also, unlike last week, I have someone with me in the booth today. I have Stigs TC with me here. Welcome, Stigs. Welcome aboard.
G'day, Noah. It's your funeral for inviting me, but we live to have some fun here. So the first pointless observation I have is Big Tex in his lovely S2000. It is a mere 42 kilometers short of cracking 100,000 kilometers. So if he's quick enough today, he will break 100,000 kilometers in that car. Because on the dash, the car very happily, proudly displays 999.59 kilometers. So we'll see how the dash handles the rollover. But on a serious note, this track, a lot of the corners are positive camber, so there's always a little bit of lean into all the corners. There's a lot of that at turn 1. It's kind of starts at turn 2, then it's flat over the top of 3. So you always feel like you've got more grip here than you actually do when the road levels out, and it can lead to people running wide in places they weren't expecting as the camber sort of fades away in certain places, making it a very tricky track because you have to capitalize on the camber that's there to maximize the grip. Just have to remember that the road flattens out, and on the exit you're going to run into trouble in a couple of really interesting places.
That's an interesting point, because the same is true even on GT cars. So with these tuned cars, basically on sports tires, it'll be much more difficult. It'll be easier, although it'll be easier to spot when the grip does run out, but at that point you're probably going too deep into those corners and you're probably looking at going wide, hopefully not into the wall. So that's a tough challenge for all of these drivers to overcome. Also, with the different drivetrains as well, we got Big NFL in his Honda Integra Type R, the same car he brought for Road Atlanta. Most of the people here, like Tim Lohr in his Sierra, Tex in his S2000, John in his M3, and NFL in his Integra, are all the same cars from last week at Road Atlanta. The only new entrant here in the Clubman class right now is the Flash 05. Weirdly enough, entering a Clubman class in a Porsche 911.
It's totally on brand for him. He had no other choice but to bring a Porsche. And by the look of things, it is very quick at the start here. Is this practice or is this actually the first session? It's not
we are about to start the first session. Actually, the first session of Clubman is about to go underway. It'll be 20 minutes.
Practice we've seen.
Yep.
Okay, so this is just practice. So he's very quick off the bat so far in his Clubman Porsche here, and he had no other choice, realistically.
Yeah, that's right. Like knowing Flash 05, being this Porsche super fan that he is, it won't be a surprise. Like it'll be a surprise if he doesn't bring a Porsche into any of our classes today.
Yeah, I called him an almanac Almanac? No, Anorak, sorry, which is not just an encyclopedia for knowing everything, but he's an anorak. He's got those specific weird little details that nobody else knows, but he just has them off the top of his head. So he is legitimately the Porsche superfan of the group, of all the people we know. And he was telling me things about a race car that I was working on that I didn't know. And I thought that was a little bit ridiculous, that he knew more about the thing that I was putting back together than I did.
You gotta wonder, like, just how long has he been, you know, looking up Porsches and stuff? But obviously
well,
now,
easy. It's the Flash 05, right? So the 05, obviously it's not 2005, it's 1905. That's how long he's been looking up to the Porsches.
Has Porsche been around since
the man
1905?
has such knowledge. He looks to be called Grandpa, so he's just doing a really good job. He's in great nick. Have you seen him? He looks fantastic for 118.
I'm gonna guess he even predates Porsche by being 1905.
Oh yeah, no, he absolutely did.
No way,
When
yeah.
he saw the Volkswagen Beetle, he saw what was coming. He saw
Yeah, I was
the
gonna
future,
say.
and he was all about paying attention to what Germany was doing at that time.
I was gonna say
It
when
wasn't
he
good
did
to
see the
look at.
Beetle. Yeah, it wasn't. Yeah, I mean, he definitely was around at the start of the Beetle and what it eventually became.
Yeah, and when Ferdinand, got some autonomy back after a man with a slim moustache was done, he was able to enjoy the birth and growth of a fantastic car company that refuses to put its engine in the correct position and tries as hard as it can to work around that problem and create some half reasonable cars despite that. And then the one or two times they throw the engine in the middle, they make the greatest car on earth.
Here we are entering the first flyers of this session with Tim Lore crossing the line. Now Tim and John are in their first flyers. Going up to turn 3, the uphill. Can these cars take it flat? Definitely still. I think it'll be when the modified. I think it'll be the modifieds and unlimiteds that will be interesting to see if they can actually take it flat on the uphill.
There is no way they'll take that flat. In iRacing, the V8 supercar gets up there, and it is just not quite, maybe flat at the top 3 there. And as you were saying before, with these cars in theory, it should be easy to feel that you've made the mistake in terms of going deep. But the reality is, you only realize you're going deep when it is way too late, and trying to make that correction costs you so much time. It's very difficult to realize early enough that you need to lift off a tiny little bit to get through the corner, rather than trying to stay committed and then getting damaged or making a mistake and falling off the road. But we'll have to see how the sector splits play out.
Just going by the eye test, it looks like John and Tim are pretty equal on pace going at least until the boot. But these two cars are known for much better handling than they have on power. Back in Road Atlanta, when it was the Ford Roadster that was actually dominating the back straight, but it was losing so much time to these two cars in Sector 1.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, Watkins Glen, it is seen as a power circuit, but with the boot attached, there are a lot of long, sweeping corners to get through, and that lack of rotation, lack of handling, can really hurt you. And I suspect with the power being this low in this class, low is a relative term, that the handling buffs may play out, but I think it's going to end up being a slightly more power-based track here, because even with those lots of corners, there are a lot of short straights, so medium-length straights, where that power advantage can bring it back. So I think it'll be much more balanced than Atlanta, but we'll find out.
No, I was right. It was very close between Tim and John, with only a tenth between them right now. 203.3 versus 203.4.
I've got bad news though. Flash is a long way up at Sector 2.
Ooh, here we go. He's coming across the line now. 202.5, 7 tenths clear of the BMW.
He lost nothing in that final sector either, and that's literally the last 2 corners.
That is a very quick Porsche indeed.
Yep, and he's still flat up through turn 3 there, so it has obviously got more power than the rest to get up from turn 1 so much quicker, but not sufficient in the handling department, with that rear engine just sliding around, making the car rotate just enough for him to get a really good lap time together.
Now it got me thinking about the Ford Roadster because Fausto Ariz, the winner from Road Atlanta, the Ford Roadster, said he could miss just the first session of Clubman, meaning he'll probably be back in for the second session. Question is, if he still brings the Ford Roadster, will that power advantage come into play still with, you know, the much shorter straights
Will
here?
he get through turn 3? That's the question. If he can get through turn 3 flat, there is nothing stopping him. Although with the straight line advantage I think he had, getting through turn 3 flat, he could probably brake and still be going faster than his opponents.
But the question is just how much time will it cost him through like the boot section all the way to the heel. The car was quick in the back section of Road Atlanta, where it was just like stop and go corners, but in the first section with the fast S's, it was losing half a second to the BMW and the Ford Sierra.
I think that the corners here are too long in radius. There are no like short, punchy corners. Even the third last corner, which is like the tightest corner, it feels like, because it's like this weird off-camber mix. Oh, well done, original John.
John firing up a 202, moving back to the top of the standings. I think Tim let him by on that lap. I think Tim made a mistake somewhere on his lap and abandoned that lap. Tex closing in with a 204. Flash also a mistake. Frustrated with himself there, weaving back and forth. That could be to do with his entire lack of engine oil pressure, as that gauge is not working in the game. So it's just like a real 90s Porsche. Yeah, one of the gauges isn't working, and it's probably the most crucial, but we'll just drive it anyway, because why not? Well, you never know. He might have a digital dash somewhere that actually shows him the actual pressure instead of the analog dash. Maybe it's not enough. You know, this is an old Porsche we're talking about here.
Oh no, they've always got at least one gauge that doesn't work. Oh wow. Through Sector 1, Flash is 5/10 quicker than John. So yeah, there is a lot more power in this Porsche, but enough rotation to keep it in there. And from his onboards, I can see that he's actually fighting the rear quite a lot, which is why he's getting the rotation. So instead of having the car understeer, he's not got quite enough rear grip in the car to be stable, but it's allowing him to get the car balance in order to make the car rotate, not necessarily as quickly, but it's not going to cost him as much time as having an understeering car.
An interesting drivetrain indeed, the rear engine, rear wheel drive car. Though it offers really it offers a lot of, despite being like everything in the back, the driving wheels and the engine, there's a lot of versatility when it comes to tuning, especially like a Porsche 911, surprisingly. So you can really so you can really, like, if you get it dialed right, the car actually just points and turns wherever you want it to. It's like a four-wheel drive if you're coming out of course with all that rear grip coming out of it. John comes into the pits. I feel like this is tire temperature related, because remember, we have no tire and fuel wear in this series, but temperatures are still a thing despite that.
Yeah, so Flash was 5/10 up on John at Sector 1, but through Sector 2, he was only 1.8 up on himself. No longer purple, but he's within a tenth as he comes to the line. Have to see how it goes.
Yo, 2.6, not quite enough here.
He lost 2.5 tenths to himself in the final sector there, and does not improve, unfortunately. And I noticed Flash's outlap. It was a bit different to everyone else's. He was taking his time in a certain way and using brakes and doing all sorts of different warm-up procedures. And I was going to ask you about how the tyre temps are affected. Are we expecting tyres to overheat or underheat as the sessions go on?
We are going to expect the tires to overheat as the session goes on, especially on a track like this with heavy loads in the corners, especially through the long right-hander after the bus stop and the boot as well. So it's pretty easy to see cars overheat their tires, even on these sports tires, the sports medium, sports softs. Like, we could very well see cars in modified and unlimited only doing 3 or 4 laps before pitting for new tires, that basically resets the tire temps back to what they would be coming out of the pits.
Okay, and of course the tyre temps coming out of the pits are, I think, below optimal temperature or something, because the tyre blankets are never at perfect road temperature. Flash was 6/10 up in Sector 1 this time, a tenth better than last lap, and this time he's now 3/10 up and he's purple at Sector 2, so he's got a chance to try and steal back the lead here. with 4 corners remaining.
Meanwhile, Tim was up only by two hundredths of a second through sector 1, but is currently improving on his personal best. I think still nowhere near the lap time that John had. It'll be interesting to see where he can
But
improve.
Flash runs wide at the third last corner. He is still up. But, Similar with a great lap. So Tim getting much closer to the fight now. He's only 5 tenths off after that lap, and with some fresh tyres, there's a good chance he will improve. But Flash running a little wide out of the third last corner, but it's still a good sector time.
Oh, he got it. He got it by a tenth. He got it back by 10.
He improved by 4 tenths, so he still lost time with that mistake, but has now taken back the lead from John, who, with that pit stop, will expect him to come back towards the front with more responses. As we are 11 minutes in, there are 9 minutes remaining. So is it timer up and finish your lap, or is it timer up and session is over? I believe it is finish your lap, correct?
It is finish your lap, indeed.
All right, so it is correctly programmed, which is nice to see in Gran Turismo for once.
That is true. Meanwhile, NFL still on a 206.3 in the Integra Type R. Not a bad lap time, especially for that car. I think front-wheel drive cars are not really suited around here in Watkins, Glen,
so
I feel
as a
like,
function
with
of
all
the long
cambered
sweepers,
corners.
you can't get the power down cleanly because it just causes understeer. So on a really stop-start sort of track, you can get the car rotated and get on the power and get through the corner. Whereas with the long sweepers, jumping on the throttle causes understeer and it just makes the corner feel even longer. And that's why he's so far off pace here. Whereas at a different track, he probably would be a lot closer because he's got a lighter car with a lot of power, and then just the front drivetrain's hurting him on the sweeping corners.
Meanwhile, I think John started taking time to warm up. His first flying lap after the pit stop wasn't exactly good.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it takes a lap or two to get the temperature in, but then there's probably nothing stopping the temperature climbing. We check back in on Texas, really important milestone. He is now only 1 lap away from crossing the 100,000 kilometer mark. His best lap is a 204.3 so far. Did not improve in his last lap. And I love the S2000. I love the dash. I love every way it's displayed. Early 2000s, late 90s Honda had some of the best looking dashes and interior experiences. You were the center of the car.
That is true. Even with the analog dashes in the NSX and the Civic Type Rs, those were good looking dashes.
Oh yeah. Like people go on about, oh, you know, it's this beautiful driver experience. What the hell does that even mean? And then you see inside one and you go, actually, no, I understand exactly what they mean. All of the controls, all of the information is directed at you, the driver, and nobody else. That's fantastic.
You just sit there and you can just sit there and understand, like, oh, that's what they mean by it. And then you actually go and drive and like, yeah, I get it.
Like, you know, people make fun of people who enjoy VTEC, but if you sit, even just sit in the passenger seat, hearing the exhaust note change from a good note to a fantastic note, and that punch in the back of your seat, even though it's not that much, you sit there and go, I want more of that. I want to do that again. If you don't do it again, I want to do it again. That's how all the Honda owners lose their licenses.
We're definitely going to see more Hondas here. I'm assuming that Tim Lohr is still going to bring his S2000 in the modified class coming up next, actually. So that's another thing to look for.
Tech's on a PB here. He's 2 tenths up on himself in the second sector. So could it be the 100,000 kilometer lap is the one?
You know, let's take a look at on board, like inside the car. See what that dash does when it crosses 100,000. Now it does. It resets back to 0.
The dash,
it rolls over back to 0. And Tim comes close to Flash's time with a 2:02.5. Still just 3 tenths off of the Porsche.
Honda never expected anyone to drive this beautiful sports car so far. And unfortunately, his dash now reads 1. But on the plus side, he can sell it as a low mileage unit now. They'll never know.
Never used, you can say it at the title. Ooh, John
But
getting
yeah,
it.
Tim Law there. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, John goes into turn one, just gets in the throttle a bit too early and slides the rear out. Hopefully that doesn't cost him too much time. We only have like less than 5 minutes left in the session, a few more laps. Like 3 more laps for everyone who's still on the lap right now.
We've got a little train forming here. We got Tex being caught by Flash and Flash being caught by John, all on that front straight, sorry, on that back straight there. Tex is now running very wide. I'm not sure if he's letting Flash through or if he's made a mistake. It looks like he's letting him through.
John with a very, very fast line through the bus stop. That car was sliding, but he still kept the throttle pin the whole way, trusting that the tires will grip at the exit.
That beautiful rotational slide where it's not, the back end isn't loose, it's just free. And you've got basically no steering lock on and the car's still rotating, and it's just like to coin the phrase, it's the perfect drift. Steal the phrase, sorry.
Riding on the slip angle of that tire, definitely.
And right on that limit, it's great stuff.
Tex lets him by as well. Goes wide out of the heel. A bit wide for that car as well. Flash currently on what's looking like an improvement on his personal best, but not purple currently.
But he is purple. How can he be improving but not purple?
Oh, he is.
That doesn't make sense. Gran Turismo, what are you telling us? But how good is that? We've got, a classic Porsche and a classic BMW. 5 and 3, and it is a PB.
It is a PB. 89 thousandths of an improvement. Extends the gap to John to just over.
Oh no, it didn't matter. Sorry, that's a 3-1. I thought it was a 2-1. I was like, oh wow, that mattered.
It was a 3
from John.
It was a 3-1. I think he lost time in that sector 3.
But they'll both get 2 more laps. But I was saying, how good is it seeing a classic Porsche fighting a classic BMW?
And
cars
a classic
that are in the hands of enthusiasts only at this point. And we've got them being thrashed right now, beating lovely S2000s, the lovely Integra, which is an underrated car, quite frankly. Like, that is such a good car in real life. And of course the Cosworth, the Escort, no,
the Sierra, the Sierra RS.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm like, no, Escort. And again, another classic car. So the quickest cars in the Clubman are the older cars. It's fantastic.
You made the same mistake that I did last week. I called the Sierra an Escort as well at Road Atlanta.
Oh, because I know what an Escort looks like. Friggin' Tommy Mäkinen was early enough to drive one of those, but not an Escort. Not a Sierra, sorry.
It ain't.
God.
But definitely, I think this is gonna be a fight to the last lap.
It has to be, because I think John's got, I think he said he had a really good run through that bus stop, so in theory he knows he's got the time there. Flash probably put a lot of his lap together, but he missed in the last corner. So it's like third last corner on the previous lap, previous best lap, where he lost a couple of tenths. So there's still a tenth in there somewhere for him in the rest of the lap.
Oh, he's improving by almost half a second. He's going into the ones with this lap if he can clean up the final sector.
Oh, using all the road, that's fantastic. This has got to be it. I'll let you call it.
201.716. He lost a tenth on that final corner, but still enough of an improvement to go 5 tenths up on John's BMW, who doesn't improve behind him.
John on a 3 as well. This will be his last lap. Tim is on his last lap as well. Tex now just starting his last lap. NFL also stuck on his last lap at this point.
That's a much cleaner exit out of turn 1 for John. Hopefully he can keep the speed up going into sector 1 and onto the back straight.
I think you've got to ride with John. He's the only man who can stop Flash at this point.
We're riding on board with John's BMW right now. What will it be? What will the bus stop look like this time around? Not as clean as the previous one, but still enough speed carried onto it. Going onto the long right hand, they're using all of the track width. Going off the curbs there. Braking very late for the left-hander that comes up the downhill. It's positive camber as well. It helps the car rotate. Goes a little bit wide, goes on the grass, loses the rear a bit, but no time lost there. I feel like he kept the throttle pinned into the boot. Clean exit there. He's not enough. He's only improving on himself by less than a tenth. Breaking into the heel, hits the apex. Doesn't get too wide out of the exit. Going on the transition back onto the short course. And onto the final two corners. I don't think it's enough. He's not improving much. He's improving by 0.08 of a second on himself. And onto the final corner. I think Flash will take this.
Flash pitting there. Just get out the way.
And in the end, it's not even an improvement. So Flash takes the win. Oh,
probably
not
overheated the tires. That it's
session.
pushing a little too hard, too long. But yes, indeed. Tim Lawk did not improve in that last lap either. He was 0.2 off his best. But session 1, as you said, goes to the Flash 05, Porsche enthusiast, Porsche Almanac, Porsche Encyclopedia, New Zealandia. Takes the first session by 0.5 of a second. John, Tim, not too far behind. 0.5 though, the full margin, but Tim within touching distance of John. And both of them, as we saw, Flash got one really good lap together, but the rest of them were tough. If either Tim or John can find a couple of tenths, there's a chance they can take session 2 off Flash, but I think they'll struggle to get that to a 1.7.
That's definitely true. And we still don't know what Fausto is gonna bring for session 2 if he does show up for session 2 in the clubman class. Will it be the Ford Roadster again? Will it be a different car for this round? So that's another thing to look out for. And now we're heading into the modified classes session 1.
Oh, okay. So we go through all the classes and then go back again as opposed to doing back-to-back sessions, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Good format, good format.
Yep.
I did not realize the Carrera 993 was from 1995.
It's not as old as you think.
No, so what we're seeing here is a definite pattern of 1995 is the center point of perfection. As you go further back in time, these cars get slower, but as you go newer towards the future, you lose time even faster. So the 8 years deficit of the Sierra Cosworth is less time loss than 4 years into the future going to the S2000.
Meaning, you'd think the late you'd think the mid to late 90s like at the top of the curve, and it just goes down from there.
Yeah, but apparently it's the mid-90s where the peak is, because I guess they didn't have the same chassis platforms that the game wants to feed PP points to. Whereas the S2000 Integra are known for having very good, very stiff chassis with those Hondas. And I guess the deemed to be old Porsche 911 Carrera was given a floppy, horrible engine layout and decided, oh no, that's not got any PP. You can now throw as many horsepower as you want at it.
Oh, and we were just talking about it earlier about Tim Lore's Honda, and he does bring it out. The Honda S2000 from Road Atlanta is back here at Watkins Glen. So is John's NSX and NFL's Corvette C8. And what do you know?
Again. Flash again, showing off the fact that he is from New Zealand. New Zealand loves Subaru. They have a huge connection to rallying Subaru thanks to a lovely gentleman known as Possum Bourne, who was an absolute legend in the field of rally in this part of the world. He would regularly show up to WRC events, and even in his late career, long after he was quote unquote far too old, he'd be running the Australian Rally Championship here, and then they would actually end up at the same event for the WRC event, and he would be in the top 10 scoring points at the WRC level while just destroying the field in the Australian Rally Championship.
I believe Tex doesn't have an entry for modifieds, or is not registered for a modified class. We're only going session 1 with 4 cars.
Radio. So Flash being very Kiwi, loving his Subarus with the WX road car. John with the NSX 2017. Tim with the same 1990 S2000. That text was in, and Big NFL with his 2020 Corvette C8. 20 minutes on the clock. We will have to see how it plays out. So we were seeing 2-minute laps in the first session. How much quicker are we expecting the modified cars to go than the Clubman cars?
At least in Road Atlanta, the modified cars were around 5 seconds quicker than the Clubman class cars.
So you'd expect to see more here with more power on the table, and straight away, John struggling up through turn 3 and just about hitting the fence.
As we expected, these cars with more power with only a slightly better tires are gonna struggle up the hill, definitely. NFL with the traction control on the Corvette. Flash looking like he's having no trouble going up the hill through turn 3.
Which would make sense with it being a Group B road car. He's got probably more downforce than everyone around him. But that's a double-edged sword. So the downforce, obviously around here, it's going to matter a lot because you can carry a lot more speed through the long sweepers. But it will mean that he doesn't get as much power in the PP calculation. So he might be struggling through, say, Sector 1 in terms of top speed, but because he'll carry so much more speed through Turn 3, maybe it balances out. He isn't going to struggle here compared to the others, but we'll have to wait and see.
However, the thing with the Group B road cars and also the Group 3 road cars is the front, I think the front downforce at least is fixed. So unlike the other cars where you could freely adjust the front downforce, or in some cases even have more downforce, you live with what you have on those Group 3 and Group B road cars. So it's also you're also a choice. Yeah, you're forced to balance it with the rear. You're forced to balance it
basically off the rear end and how your setup lands. So just riding on board there with Tim, the dash obviously very confused why he's not shifting at 8,000 RPM as it flashes please shift for a long time before Tim actually shifts with the modified parts in that S2000 engine.
I'm gonna guess that with the modified parts in the S2000, I'm guessing that car would make close to 10,000 RPM. Not quite, because you do need the ultra parts for it.
It is suggesting 10,200 as the red line. And he is using every single one of those, and the dashboard is very concerned.
I remember having made a video on when the Ultra parts first came out. I did a test on high revving VTEC engines. I can confirm that the S2000 goes over 11,000 RPM maximum with all those parts installed. But with the modified class not allowing those ultra parts, the highest that car can go right now is around, as you said, 10,200 RPM.
I love that he shifts gears and the car continues to tell him, please shift, you're over 9,000 RPM.
It also tells how close those gearings are. Those gear ratios are very close, which is probably built specifically for this track here at Watkins Glen.
It looks like it. He's got second gear set up really nicely where it gives him control in terms of the amount of power he's got to get out of the corners. But once the car straightens up, it's second gear, third gear, fourth gear, fifth gear, all in quick succession. And it's just sitting in the power band the entire way. It's a really good gearbox for this track.
We have Tim going
here for the first line.
153.4 on the NSX. Remember, the NSX was the winner of the modified class from last week at Road Atlanta, so it's looking to go back to back here. But the S2000 looks like it's gonna put up a much better challenge here at Watkins Glen and Flash with the Impreza or WRX road car. Let's see how it does. It's looking to go much faster at a 52.2. 1 second quicker than the NSX.
So the NSX looks like it's the handling car of actually, is it? No, I don't know, because he was flat up the hill through turn 3. I'm not sure if Tim was on the previous lap, but
Flash
John
definitely isn't. Flash definitely isn't.
Flash isn't.
Isn't. He had to lift going into
Interesting.
turn. He lifted going into turn 2 and again going into turn 3.
Is he purple at the Spectre split though? That's my question.
He's slowing down. It looks like he's going on a cooldown lap of some sort.
That would not surprise me. Flash is the kind of meticulous, smart gentleman to be looking at tire temperatures and just sort of feeling them with a wave of his hand, understanding they are too hot or too cold. But John was only 100th of a second off his own PB at Sector 1 while being flat up the hill, which makes me wonder if Tim is not able to be flat because he was much closer to John when they got to the bus stop than they were at the the exit of turn 1. So John looks like he is hunting Tim down. And I don't know if Tim's going to respond, whether he needs more power or he needs more handling, but the NSX looks like it is getting through the corners far quicker than that S2000.
Tim right now looking to improve. He's currently 295 up on his personal best, but I don't think he's going to improve. It's only a 135 at the end, a 54 dead for Tim Lore's S2000. John doesn't improve in that lap, but it was still a 53.6, so he's definitely hunting down Tim right now, as you said.
Yeah, there's a little 2/10 loss there for John. Not quite sure where it actually lost because it looked good the entire lap. I wasn't looking at any of the splits. Oh, wow, what a line. Does not make the apex for 3, drifts it through 3, completely pinned. John has these things on edge in every class where he's got the back end out, but he keeps it pinned and he's able to hold it without losing too much time, although it is now saying plus 5/10 and he's run wide through the bus stop. But what we were saying earlier about having, instead, if you've got understeer, you take away a little bit of rear grip to make the car slide at the rear, but it just gives you the balance back and allows you to point the car where you want, which can give you more lap time, even though you've got less overall grip. And it looks like John is on the absolute limit in both classes so far for having less rear grip than ideal, but it's enough rear grip to get the job done.
Meanwhile, Flash is still going purple. I think he took turn 3 flat this time. He is 2/10 purple. Going through sector 1.
Quicker. So he's quicker because while John is flat up the hill, he's sliding the car to make it get there, whereas I think Flash is going to be comfortable flat. And the difference there is he's not losing speed sliding the car. Oh, NFL, good lap time with a 54.1 there, right on the back of Tim, 300 second different, even though Tim is on a PB this lap.
Flash did go wide on the downhill left through sector 2, so I think this lap is done. He'll have to wait until the next lap. Yep, he's now 2/10 down. So he lost 4/10 just going deep, braking a bit too late there, I feel like, on the downhill left, because he did.
Huge gain from Tim. It's a 53.3 for him.
He's much closer.
9/10, and he has just pipped John, who was unable to improve on that lap with the big mistake in turn 1. A little mistake in turn 3, it cost him a lot of lap time. So it is a 0.05 of a second gap between Tim and John for second place. Nobody is within a second of Flash out front. NFL has made a mistake somewhere and is looking to reset in order to make some gains to get back closer to Tim and John.
Tim's car so planted through the first sector, he's flat through 2 and 3, and has a very tight line through the bus stop as well, so that car definitely has cornering potential. Just how much power does it not have right now is the question to make that 1 second.
Probably, I would be not surprised if you could throw 100 kilos at this car and then put more power back on and get back lap time, because it's probably light. It's probably the lightest car on this field, is my guess, because the S2000 was a really good little chassis, and the game is probably penalizing his PP value because he's got so few kilos of car that's actually there, whereas the NSX is a much bigger car. It's got hybrid batteries in it, so it is actually able to get more power into it despite having similar cornering potential.
That is true. The options do open up quite a bit with modified, especially if you have a base card that's not a very high PP. You either go for weight reduction or you go for outright power. I think Tim went with a balance of both because the car is already light to begin with. The game really does give you more PP by having, less weight than what you already have, so it doesn't give him more room to put power on. Obviously the car's still naturally aspirated, but I think the option, I don't think the option is there to add a turbo to the S2000 in this car though, but John improves, pips Tim back up with a 53.2. These two are fighting it out again for second place right now. Already within a second of Flash, 0.960 behind him.
Well, that just got spoiled for me. It's unfortunate. Oh well. No, my dad sent me a text message informing me of what happened in qualifying with my good friend in Vietnam. So that's unfortunate.
And John's purple through sector 1 by 0.163, but Flash improves again with the 52.1. I wonder how that stands up to this. Currently, John's going faster right now.
Yep, so this is, of course, we're at the 10-minute mark, sorry, and my brain just had a complete shutdown there. We've 10 minutes, we still have 10 minutes running, we're only halfway through the session, and none of the top three have come into the pits yet to reset tyres. Only NFL has dealt with resetting tyres, getting new ones, and I think Flash has been doing slow laps to cool the tyres down rather than a complete reset by getting fresh tyres.
John's
so
still John's still a 10th purple going to sector 2 here, or going out of sector 2, I should say.
He's purple.
He's purple by a 10th right now, on that updated lap tire of Flash as well.
Tim made a mistake there in sector 3. He was looking like he was going to improve, but made a small error, missed the apex, and now a bit of a tank slapper. So I was hoping he could get back on John, but it sounds like John is about to come through and take at least a swing at Flash for first, but he's going to definitely lock in second place at this point.
He definitely lost time through sector 3 as well, 53.1. So it's looking like Flash is gaining all his time against the NSX on sector 3. As it wasn't a particularly bad sector 3 for the NSX as well. He did go wide on that left-hander on the transition, but that's about the only thing I could point out that was not as clean as you would like through there. So definitely the WRX is finding traction that the others are not through there. And he improves again to 51.9. He's now down to the 51s.
Flash has destroyed everyone here, but importantly for the fight here, John is still only 2/10 away from Tim, and I think Tim can find it. Between this session and the next session, he's just got to go and find some more power. He's so safe through turns 2 and 3, which means if there is some grip that he needs to be taking away from that car, or some weight he can be adding to get a bunch of power, but he runs wide there and now gets out of John's way into the heel, I think? No, the boot, sorry. I was on track for a second.
Yeah.
But yeah, Tim's got such stability in the high speed. It just needs more power. It needs less wing. It needs some sort of change if he wants to fight in the fight close towards Flash, try and beat John here. It looks like John's got more car under him, but Tim is maximizing all the car he has with very few mistakes. And if they are a mistake, it's a half a tenth of a mistake. He's doing a really good job. But we'll have to see how these two fight it out over the remaining 7 minutes plus finishing their laps.
And again, Flash on the cooldown lap running slow here through the booth. So definitely he's managing his tires on track instead of getting new sets.
I guess it saves more time. Instead of having an in-lap and an out-lap, you have one slow lap. Oh, wow.
That is true. John closes the gap now with a 52.4, but it's still 4/10 off of the WRX.
But it did show that lap time before, when he was purple going into sector 2, that it was actually purple and not an error. He was legitimately as quick as Flash to that point. So it looks like it's just just John struggling to maximize that NSX. He's on the ragged edge, and when he does hook it up, he can get a quick lap. It's a question, can he get a 100% lap together to challenge Flash? Because I'd say Tim is now out of the running for that fight for P2 or the win. He's going to need to make some changes somewhere. And, well, good luck to him. He's a very good driver. Oh, wow. Wow, I love watching Tim there. Suddenly the car has gone from being planted and safe. It's now oversteering everywhere. I wonder if that's tyre temp related.
It may be. He is running now 14 minutes deep, 8 laps deep now into this one set of tires that he has.
Yeah, so it's done 53, 54, 54, 58 in the last lap where he made a mistake and let John through, but he was back on it straight away. There's no slow laps from him compared to Flash, so I wonder if it is just eye-temps or if the car is not as planted as we thought, and he's just been making it look planted because he's just that good.
It could be either way. It could be either, really, with Tim.
And knowing him, if you got out of the car and say, how's the car? He'd go, oh, it's great. No, nothing wrong with it. And it's, you know, been trying to kill him for the last 15 minutes. And he just wouldn't let on at all.
Like, you would say it's fine because he didn't die. That's the only reason why. And Flash, currently 4/10 up, coming out of Sector 2 here.
Wow, this is an absolute clinic by Flash. The Watkins land so far, his track, cleaning up in the first session for Clubman. He is now destroying the field in modified. I say destroying, it's only 5/10, but it looked a lot bigger earlier, but it looks like he's about to improve again.
Again, he finds 2 more, like a 10th and a half through Sector 3. He's now 6/10 up, going just with only the final 2 corners left. Everyone actually loses time here. It's so easy because it's just 1 corner, but what will it be? It'll be a 51.3. Actually gains more time. He finds half a 10th on the final corner alone. I think that just put him away. That might have just put him away.
He found 6/10 on himself to go 9/10 clear at the top, 2 seconds quicker than Tim, who just had a moment on exiting the bus stop and spun. So we have found Tim is mortal. He can be killed, but potentially only by other gods such as himself. We'll have to check in on that one. NFL now only 7/10 behind Tim Law with a 54 point. That's aired out. That's interesting. Not sure what that lap time is, but it's 7/10 behind Tim Law. I think it's 54.1.
Yeah, it is a
54.1.
54.1. Tim currently on auto drive right now. Probably letting the car cool itself down. Now
Tim
he's back on
to,
it.
you know, just take a break, check his phone.
Yeah, now he's back on it.
Maybe dial back in. He'll start paying attention for the final 2 laps because he will get 2 more laps here. 1 more before the time expires. Even if it's a slow lap, he'll be able to get a final lap started just before the 20-minute mark.
Remember, Tim Lore can be killed because of inside Clockwork Motorsport. Only Noir and Terrace is unkillable, remember? In that ERF Nürburgring 24-hour race, 6 times he almost died. Well, I almost died. But no!
No, say he almost died. It's better when you say it in third person, man. No,
he almost tried. People tried so hard.
You are the Toyota Camry. You are the Toyota Camry of the team. You do not die, but you can only be killed by yourself. If that makes sense. The Toyota Camry will live forever. It is only ever killed by its owner.
I am unkillable. Yep. That became a thing throughout that 24-hour race. Tim making improvements, but only slight, not even slight, really marginal improvements only to himself as well. So I think he's only about to consolidate 3rd place here again against NFL in the Corvette.
It didn't look so aggressive through the bus stop, and whereas the other 2 look like they're taking more curb, more risk, and carrying more speed as a result, whereas Tim's sort of playing safe, playing smart with the FIA sort of track limits and respecting the curves and moving all around rather than just eating all of them to try and get as much speed as possible.
Yeah, looking at Flash here is just yeah, he's just eating up all the curb. Slight lift going into the entry, but when he gets past the first set of the chicane, he just goes back on the throttle, bang on full throttle all the way up to the exit, knowing that the car with that 4-wheel drive will have enough grip, but goes wide on that left-hander again. That's been a point for Flash during this session. Like, he goes for an attack lap and he just misses the braking point, or like misjudges his speed on the approach to that left-hander and just brakes a bit too late, and that sends the car wide. But surprisingly, he only lost like a 10th there.
Yeah, I found road cars, it's you make up all your time in the braking zones by getting the car stopped and rotated at the same time, and that's really challenging in road cars because they like to sort of wander around and float, and that's probably where Flash is struggling, where he's braking as late as he can and he has to try and get the car stopped and rotated, and you can sometimes only do one. And when you get it right, you make up 4/10 in one corner and you look like a hero. But when you get it wrong, you suddenly look like you've got no idea what you're doing, even though you're driving very well.
John just gets it a bit wrong there out of the bus stop. Hangs the throttle a bit too late there.
Looks like everyone is on their final lap now.
They are.
NFL snuck in, or was that Flash who snuck in on the line there?
It was Flash that snuck in on the line there, flat out through 2 and 3 going up the hill. That WRX is quick.
I'm starting to wonder if it's that WRX or that Flash 05. That's quick.
It could be both. He did win. He did win Clubman in that Carrera.
John made a mistake there in Sector 3. He will not improve on this lap. He is going to finish no closer than 1.08 seconds away from the Flash in first place.
Meanwhile, Flash is still going purple, slightly purple on his own time here. Gets that left-hander correct. All the way down the inside here. Oh, and kicks the rear out at the boot. I think that's it. I don't think he gets an improvement. I don't think that was intended, and it's not. It's close though. It's only 55 thousandths down on his personal best.
Oh, Tim was slightly up at Sector 3 on himself, trying to improve, but too much throttle in the final corner. But had a massive tank slapper, nearly died about 4 times, only lost 3/10. So that's some quality, incredibly high quality driving while dying to only lose 3/10, while basically tank slapping the entire way from the exit last corner all the way to the start finish line.
And here we have Flash gonna come across the line for his final lap. 3 thousandths down at the end. Somehow he still gains time even after sliding out of the boot, or sliding into the boot.
Well, that's warning signs for everyone that Flash has even more time to find. So you have to go find a second just to get close to him, and that's before he perfects the lap. Like, that is a fantastic drive from the Flash 05, showing that New Zealand is actually the breeding ground of the best race drivers in the world, even if some of them were born in Australia. We don't talk about that.
Shane Van
I lied, we talk about that a lot.
So, someone named like Shane Van Cheeseburger.
Oh no! He was definitely born in New Zealand. We're not claiming him. He's just too good.
Wait,
there's nothing to do with that.
Who's that guy over here? The U.S. Scott Dixon?
Yeah, he was definitely born in Australia, and so as such, we have rights to claim that.
Anyway, we're looking at the results from session 1 of the modified class. Flash 05 in the WRX Group B road car with a 151.3. John T in the NSX with a 52.4. Just a little over a second off of that WRX. Tim in the S2000, a second behind the NSX with a 153.348, and NFL in the Corvette with a 154.1. I feel like if the S2000 is at risk here going into the second session, because the Corvette definitely has more power than the S2000. So if NFL can find a really clean lap, there is a potential for him to overtake the S2000 for third.
Absolutely. I think the NFL's Corvette, if you can just hook it up, is a good enough driver to make that work. Tim's going to have to do some big changes to try and get anywhere near the front. But it's basically, unless someone's got a lot of sneakiness to come or some clever strategies to play, it's Flash's class to lose here with that 1 second lead. Clubman, of course, was a lot tighter, where it wasn't as clear cut, if that makes sense, as we are so far. But we're going off to Unlimited. Who has entries for Unlimited?
Entries for Unlimited. Everyone here has entries for Unlimited. So we will have Tex and Max McGetty, who joins us here for his first session of the weekend, also having an entry in Unlimited. Gonna be interesting what people would bring out for the Unlimited class, because remember, it's everything goes The only thing that everyone has to remember, it's everyone has to use racing hard tires. Basically, beyond that,
It is open slather, as they say.
engine swaps are unrestricted, tuning parts all the way to Ultra.
What is it? You just can't show up in a race car or a hypercar. Is that the correct terminology?
Yep, you can't. You cannot show up in a race car, a hypercar, or we do have a list of cars that fall under road cars, but still aren't available, like the high value cars. But of course, unfortunately, the high medic is also banned from competition use. Not because it's an ambulance, because it's so damn noisy when you put the sirens on.
I feel like it would be, gross misuse of, public safety to throw an ambulance at a racetrack.
I think it claim it secondhand.
You claim it's secondhand. With that paint scheme, it's in too good, Nick.
You know, they could claim it, they bought it as a high ace and just repainted it and put the parts on from the ambulance. They could say that.
I mean, they put parts on it for sure, but I wouldn't call them ambulance parts.
Oh, interesting choice here. NFL, if I remember last week, he showed up in unlimited class with a C7 Corvette. And now he shows up with a Ford GT.
Max, so he's gone from the Corvette GT to the Ford GT. Interesting.
Yep. And Max McGetty last week, what did he show up? He showed up in unlimited class with the Alpha Giulia. And this time he shows up in a Audi TTS Coupe. I'm guessing that has an engine swap
if
in
we
it.
looked at the cars in a modified, we had a Honda NSX, and you go, okay, that makes sense. I would not have expected to see Mazda 3, Silvia S14, Audi TTS Coupe. Was not expecting those things. In my head, you're going to see more supercar style builds, but of course, the GTR Nismo can probably make 1,000 horsepower with crazy engine swaps. I know the Mazda 3's got some insane drivetrain on it, and the Renault livery sort of implies that it's 787B spec.
It
is. It blasts through the side of my shot. It has got 787B power under it. The Silvia, again, it's probably got 1,000 horsepower. The Ford GT, that makes sense to me. The Corvette, that makes sense. The TTS, I don't know if that's got an Audi R8 engine in it, but
it might have.
I love the variety.
And that's the point of the unlimited class. That's the point of the unlimited class. Last week we saw a battle between two R34 GTRs with RA Philo's R34 and Cross's R34. John T's Mazda 3 was also the same he brought last week, and he also had Fausto with him, who also had a four-rotor Mazda 3. Look at the power on that car going into the bus stop.
Interestingly, so once again, I'm looking at gauges and learning things. On the R32 Nismo, there is a gauge to tell you how much torque is being sent to the front tire.
Is there?
I think, yeah, it says.
Isn't that turbo?
It's front torque in kilogram meters.
Front torque in
So it's not a percentage. It appears to be a unit of torque, and because this thing is making a bajillion horsepower, it makes a bajillion horsepower. So the gauge is maxing out at 50 immediately. But it's interesting that that gauge is a really gentle spread to 10, and then it just stacks to 50. So that must be the clever ATESS or whatever. A four-wheel drive system would manage torque and just gently feed in front torque, gently feed it in, and then once you had a mistake, it would smack to 50, you stop the oversteer, give you a bit more understeer, and then go back to feeding torque. So crazy, that's a dial on the, a gauge on the dash. Like, that's fantastic.
You'd be referring...
This is why I love the 90s. Cool stuff like that.
You'd be referring to the first iteration.
You deal with it.
You'd be referring to the first iteration of the Atessa ETS four-wheel drive system, which definitely was refined for the Nismo version and carried over to the R33 and R34 GTRs. But looking at the Mazda 3 right now, John's Mazda 3 was just spinning the rear wheels through sector 3 like he was just drifting out of the heel section and onto the transition. It didn't even feel like a time attack car. It looked like a drift car going through there.
The rate at which these things accelerate, it is genuinely like watching a video game. Yes, we are looking at a video game, but it's like watching the hybrid P1s just disappear out of a slow corner. The speedo can't keep up. He went from 120 to 180 in a half a second, basically. It does not know what to do. It can't handle it.
These guys are going into the bus stop, braking at 320 plus kilometers an hour.
That's 200 miles an hour for those of us experiencing freedom units. The Flash was at 310 going down to turn 1. He brakes for turn 1 and goes, oh no, I've braked far too late at this point. Yeah, 310, probably too quick, but it just explodes off the corner.
If I remember looking at it right, John's Mazda 3 braked at 330, Texas Corvette brakes at 325, Tim's S14 braked at like 310. I don't remember. I didn't catch NFL speed for GT, but these
Flash
cars
was 312 there.
definitely
after being off the road at turn 1 with dirty tires through 2 and 3.
Definitely blasting their way up the hill and onto the back straight, going into the bus stop. Look at John just drifting the car in the final sector. That Mazda 3 is a 4-wheel drive.
You couldn't own a car like this because you would just get in it and go, well, one of two things is happening. The police are arresting me for the rest of my life, or I'm going to wrap myself around 3 trees because that's how many it will take to stop this thing.
Speaking of which, Tex goes deep into turn 1. I think he brakes too late there.
Well, his mistake was probably looking that he was the fastest car, and by the time he processed that he was fastest, he already missed the braking point because the car's so quick. The gap from the start finish line to the braking point is half a second, basically.
Flash right now, the only one yet to set a representative lap time on his R32 Nismo, but he's going here now to the final corner.
He made a mistake in turn 1, so it won't matter what.
It won't matter. He will be a 47.1, still good enough for third.
Okay. Flash is going way quicker than this on this next lap. He was way off the road at turn 1. This is going to be enormous.
We have Tim Lore with traction control here in the S14. He didn't have it in Road Atlanta, which made it really interesting to watch as that S4. I remember watching that S14 going through the SS at half throttle.
Flash exits turn 4 at 310 kilometers an hour.
Oh my god.
It goes straight into the red line and he's doing 340 up the back straight.
Oh my god.
Hence why when he was only 2 seconds off pace after basically coming to a stop at turn 1 trying to not hit the wall, Flash is going to be fast. He's going to sweep Watkins Glen here. But I expect everyone to improve as the lap times will be very tough. This is the hardest class to drive. It'll be hard to get the perfect lap. It'll be hard to get a half reasonable lap where you don't ship a second in 2 corners.
No, and John goes to the top of the timing boards with a 143.8. Looking to have like, I think he had a much cleaner sector 3 there. Definitely just sector 3 gains here.
I'd say Flash is still up last I checked. But NFL.
Tim up to second with a 144.9. It's interesting that S14, the choice of car here, the S14 Sylvia. I remember in Road Atlanta he didn't have the traction control on, and he was going through the SS at 10% throttle.
Yeah, that's about what I expected. Flash with a 141.0 to be 2.8 seconds up.
Tim wipes out at the back straight. I think the left rear, he caught grass on the left rear going up here, and no amount of traction control can save your car losing traction with 1300 horsepower.
That's a very un-Tim thing to do. Flash is now just playing around with 5th gear through the S's because he's just got that much bloody power, it doesn't matter. But he's 2.8 seconds clear of John and he's on another cooldown lap. So Flash playing the game by getting a good lap in and then cooling down and focusing on the next one rather than feeling like he has to keep pushing every lap to try and get back towards the front because he's already there, and it's just giving him the advantage and the luxury of taking his time and making sure to get it right.
It's true. You know,
John there. Oh, he was up, I think, on his personal best third sector, and he wraps it out. Takes another 10.5 out of his best lap. It is 2.6 seconds behind Flash, but he's 1.2 ahead of Tim at the moment. So safe in second, but of course, any lap could find at least a second around here with these cars because the apexes are so easy to miss. Braking points so tough to pick when you're arriving in a road car at 200 plus miles an hour. As Tex improves and goes third, 9 tenths behind John, 3.5 off the lead in his Corvette C7.
You know, everyone under 150s right now, even Max in his Audi T, I'm guessing an Audi R8 powered TT, down at 148.6, and not too far from NFL's 4GT with a 148.3. I don't think NFL has found a really clean lap so far in this session. Not surprising, given how hard these cars are to handle, and that 4GT is a bit of a handful.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, even with the 20 minutes you'll have in the session, you will be lucky to get one lap that you're happy with. These cars are that difficult to drive. When you've got 1,000 horsepower, any throttle percentage is too much very easily. Trying to pick your braking point when your braking zones are so long, even with the race tires and the race brakes, they're just not going to stop the same as a race car. This is the problem with things like the Valkyrie and the Zonda is you get to the 100-meter ball, put your foot on the brake and nothing happens. You go sailing past the corner. So just going to be really tough for these guys to execute a good lap. So don't count anyone out until the absolute end of the session. Flash look comfy now, but it is absolutely not comfy by any stretch of the imagination because nobody has done a lap that is absolutely perfect.
Meaning even Flash himself has potential to improve, maybe a 40, maybe a 39 even.
That is terrifying. I'm thinking of many race cars that are not that quick.
You know, for reference, these cars are already going way faster than GT3 cars around here.
Yes, that is what I'm saying. That's quicker than GT3, which is an insane concept. Granted, they got 500 horsepower, but they are purpose-built race cars with crazy aerodynamics, and they're getting destroyed by random road cars, basically. And this is what I say random. It is a random assortment. There is no rhyme or reason here to what is quick on face value. New, old, supercar, hypercar, sports car, they're all here.
Like, you really don't know until they actually put the laps down which one is quick and which is not.
As Flash improves with a 40.9, he takes a whole 10th of a second out of himself on that lap. So does Tim improve.
44.4 goes back up to third.
Steals it away from Tex, who's now only 2 tenths down on Tim. But I'll keep an eye on Tex's lap here to see if he is up on this one particular mistake. But, bigger mistake on the exit. So that's the thing. You make a little mistake on the way in, becomes a bigger mistake on the way out, and then you've given up 6 tenths before you know it.
You know, already with these road cars, the margin of error is already too small. When you have this much power with, you know, only this much effective brakes, you're right when you said it. You have 20 minutes, you're lucky to only get one lap that you're going to be happy with, just because the operating window of these cars, everything really, acceleration, braking, and turning, it's so small.
He's happy with. He's gained 1.6 seconds. 1.9 seconds on his best. Oh, sorry, 1.6. Sorry, I misread one.
That Corvette C7 is quick.
And he puts himself second, 1.8 behind Flash. No, sorry, I was right the first time. He gained 1.9 seconds on that lap. So even with that little mistake, he gained a huge amount and is now clear of third place by a whole 9 tenths. John and NFL are now fighting for third place because Tex has destroyed them. And Tim lost 3.5 seconds off the lead here, 5 tenths away from NFL in fourth. He's only 1 tenth up in this sector. He's got the least crazy car with his S14,
which is weird saying that when that S14 clearly has more than 1,000 horsepower in that V8.
I thought Tim was on a chill lap. I looked at his throttle percentage up the straight in third gear, and it's like 70% throttle in a straight line. That's how much power he's got. So he's gone from the modified class where he hasn't got enough power to unlimited where he has too much power. Like, it looks like he's just chilling, but he is using 80% throttle in fourth gear because it wants to burst into wheel spin. The man needs some rear grip desperately.
You know, we were talking about like we were talking about like taking away rear grip to get the front pointed a bit more. No, not for Tim's car. We need more rear on this thing.
Oh my god, he goes to 100% throttle and then the traction control just cuts in to like 20%. It can't help him. There's just too much power. And the problem is it comes on with turbo lag. So he grabs the throttle percentage and then has to wait for the car to start making power.
Actually,
the correct
no.
throttle percentage. So
No, that is
a turbo.
That is a naturally aspirated V8 on that S14. That is a Corvette C7 engine on that S14.
So it's just it's just the fact that it's making more power at the very top. So it accelerates really slowly at the bottom, and then it gets onto power and then causes a massive amount of wheel spin. I've never seen a naturally aspirated car drive so much like a turbo.
It could be because of It could be because of the traction control just not letting him have enough acceleration. Like it's just killing the acceleration.
Traction control. You can tell when he overshoots the traction control, and if he does, it's by a tiny margin.
Oh, he does. He's only going 80%. Yeah, we're on board with Timlo right now. You are right. He's only using like 80, 90%. He goes 100% throttle for a split second before getting on the brakes.
So that you can see the traction control just sits there when he does overshoot. So he's not doing anything crazy. It's just not enough grip.
That rear is not. That rear is not having a fun time right now in that S14. Meanwhile, we're looking at John here. He's still not finding improvement in the Mazda 3. That is a good sounding car though with that 4-rotor.
I believe Flash did improve, by the way. I went to a 140.0, which is a full second quicker than his previous lap.
Well, the next thing that we still have a little over 5 minutes left in this session, so he's got enough time to find a way into the 39s.
Flash going for a sweep of Watkins Glen International. Oh, Tex with a tag slapper. He was looking good there. Oh, it's an outlap. Sorry, I apologize.
Okay. No, it's actually not. It looks like a cooldown lap or some sort.
Yeah, sorry, I said an outlap, you know, on reflex. You know, it's a slow lap, if that makes sense.
John's last 3 laps have all been in the 43s, but he can't seem to find more time, and he's struggling to find more time at least to get out of the Mazda 3.
Probably something to do with that engine note, you know, deafening him. I mean, he can't hear the revs, can't hear the tires slipping, because all he can hear is R26B exploding eardrums.
Tim is down to the 43s.
Tim found a little bit more throttle percentage and was able to improve up into 4th place. He steals it away from NFL, who is 3/10 back, but he's only 2/10 behind John. There is a chance for him to poach 3rd place here from the original John and his R26B powered Mazda 3, which is somehow 4-wheel drive. I have no idea what driveline's actually in it, but I love the idea that it's got. I love the idea that it's got the quad rotor and somehow is 4-wheel drive.
I mean, the Flash's R32 GTR definitely has the R92 CP engine in it.
That would explain why it's making 1,000 horsepower so easily, because that's just what it does. NFL letting someone through there before he lights up his next attempt.
It's going to be looking like another sweep for the GTRs here, as last week we had a 1-2 lockout with 2 R34s, and now it's looking like an R32 this time at Watkins. Glen is looking to dominate the unlimited class once again.
It's worth noting here, NFL has 2 1-minute 43.9s in the last 3 laps. I think he's on to improve on this next lap, or the next couple of laps, because he's done a little cooldown lap there, and he's got a big opportunity to go very quick. As he gets to 300 kilometers an hour into turn 1, good lord. I've got a little lag, so I can't really tell where his lines are because his car's sort of shuffling around the road. But hopefully he can put together a good lap here and take the fight to Tim and John, and maybe even steal third place in this session.
Yeah, that Ford GT definitely has the potential to go deep into the 43s, maybe even down into the 42s on a really clean lap. So it's definitely, maybe not in this session, maybe in the next session, because from last week at Road Atlanta, NFL made some big gains coming into the second session.
Hopefully you can do that again. It looked like to me that the front end just wasn't there for him, which when he was sort of searching for the apex of the corners, and then when you're trying to get on the power on the wrong line, it then lights up the rear end and you end up oversteering off the road. And yeah, not ideal for him, but obviously he's prioritizing rear grip in a rear-wheel drive car, because with 1,000 horsepower, these guys are struggling to put the power down, as we saw with Tim in the two-wheel drive cars. It's almost like you need to have the two-wheel class and the four-wheel class. But as we can see, Tex is quicker than John at the moment in a rear-wheel drive Corvette, as far as I can work out. That's four-wheel drive. I don't think there's four-wheel drive for this thing, is there?
It is two-wheel drive.
Okay. Because it has been snapping on throttle, which makes me think it's two-wheel drive, but in this game, anything can happen.
Well, you can see the same for John's Mazda 3, which I'm guessing probably has a rear bias torque distribution, which explains why the car is so squirrely out of sector 3. Maybe equalizing it a bit more, maybe 60-40 or 65-35 would probably do him much better.
Yeah, I would say you should probably push towards, honestly, the way he's getting on the power out of the corners, he's got way more grip than he's getting more understeer, if that makes sense, when he gets on throttle. So he probably needs to actually push towards the rear and just be a little safer in second gear, because he's pulling third gear and getting 100 throttle on the exit every time. He can probably sneak 5% torque to the rear, and he'll buy himself a little bit of rotation, because he doesn't need to wait as long, can get on the throttle earlier, and the fact that he's getting on the throttle not as hard doesn't hurt him as much, because he's actually getting out of the corners better. Like we saw with NFL's Integra, being on the throttle with front wheel torque is hurting you a lot on the exits, because they've got so many long sweeping corners. And you can see John here is 4/10 up, so he must have gone for the safe torque distribution and ended up finding time. But as you made that noise, he ran wide, and he'll get dirty tires. It's going to cost him on the exit.
That's going to be it. It does, but it did cost him a whole 4/10 he had on hand coming into the final corner, just going wide on the penultimate corner.
So obviously it looks like he has taken your advice there, going to the safer torque, and it's just cleaned up his last couple of corners. But then the understeer kicked in and it just pushed him wide at the second last corner. And instead of fighting Tex for second, he's now vulnerable to Tim and NFL, as everyone starts off, as everyone is basically on their last lap right now. First man to cross is going to be Flash.
With an improvement again, but not quite enough to get into the 39s, a 40.027 on that R32 GTR Nismo.
And now we go to Tex, who's in second place for the moment, to finish his final lap. The time sort of snuck up on us on that one, because we weren't looking at it, because there was just too much going on. And Tex also improves. He finds 900ths. And is that enough to hold on to second place? It looks like NFL did not get the lap together that I was hoping for, unfortunately for him.
Tim got it wrong on the exit of the final corner. It looked like he had some time on hand there as well.
Ah, it's a shame. We go to Max Eddy for his final lap. Next car to cross the line. He's 2/10 down on himself at the moment.
John's not far behind him. He just popped up there behind on shot. Oh, gets the final corner wrong.
Oh,
that was a good save.
Impressive drift. It was a good drift, good save.
That was a good save.
Oh, but John rubs the wall behind him as well. And I don't know if that's going to be enough. And he does another 43.3. He's done 43.3 3 times in this session. And he's only able to finish third. He probably could have fought Tex for second place, but congrats to Tex there, pulling off a fantastic drive in a rear-wheel drive unlimited car to get second place. But Noah, run us through the standings.
Here we are with the first session of the unlimited class. Flash 05 again at the top of the timing boards in the R32 GTR Nismo with the time of 140.0. Next car up, 2.669 seconds behind is Tex in the Corvette C7 with a 142.696. John not too far behind in the Mazda 3 with a 143.324. Also Tim very close by in the S14, 43.548. And then we have NFL in the Ford GT with a 143.905. So we have 3 cars all in the 143s, and Max Marchetti's Audi TTS Coupe with a 148.6. These cars are crazy fast. Despite the gaps the times are showing right now, these cars are fast.
Statement. Tim, the straight here, the 600-meter straight, is only long enough for about 100 meters of full throttle in Tim's car. If Tim could find a way to put that much power that he has onto the ground, he would be monumentally quick. But right now, he just needs to figure out how to get that much power to the road. He could probably take 200 horsepower off and, you know, find some handling mods, and he'd have the same straight line speed, because he is throttle limited in 4th gear at about 260 kilometers an hour, 160 miles an hour. He's still searching for grip. So a lot of potential in these cars, and it's just a lot of work to get it to work. Don't know how we're going to see improvements, what kind of changes we'll see between now and the second sessions, but I believe we go back to Clubman for the second runs. Is that correct, Mark?
That is correct. We are now going in. Also, the track time will change to the afternoon session as we go through the second cycle of these events.
I will be right back and take a quick break between sessions, and I'll rejoin you when the session has resumed.
Okay, we're just gonna get everyone onto the grid here for the second session of the Clubman class. Oh, it looks like Max Marchetti is bringing a fleet of Audi TTS coupes here for this week. And remember, for last week in Road Atlanta, he brought a fleet of BMW M3s, E36 M3s in both the Clubman and the modified class last week. NFL back on track with his DC2 Integra Type R. A very fine looking car, I might say. Tex and his S2000 everyone actually looking to improve here in the second session. Last week we did see some slight improvements from others, and not so much, getting close to their personal best times in session 1, but not quite an improvement here in session 2 as we saw in Road Atlanta. However, here in Watkins Glen, well, the track temperatures from the afternoon session change make a difference in terms of grip for these cars. We'll find out very shortly as we wait for everyone to get on track for the second session of the Clubman. Meanwhile, while recapping those, while waiting for everyone to get on track, let's recap what session 1 brought us for Clubman. We have currently Flash 05 leading the class in the 911 Carrera, the 993 Porsche 911, with a time of 2:01.716. In second place is the original John T in the M3 Sport Evolution, the BMW M3, with the 2:02.270. Tim Lohr in the Ford Sierra Cosworth with a 2:02.566. Texas X2000 with a best of 2:04.328, and NFL's Integra Type R with a 2:06.359. Definitely still some time to find, I feel like, with these cars, but it probably would be a bit more difficult with the afternoon sessions bringing hotter temperatures. So maybe everyone has to watch out for tire temps sometime in the session, take a cool down lap every other lap like the Flash 05 has been doing so far. We will see. And I think everyone is back on track. Unfortunately, we will not have the original John T with us for the second sessions of the event, so his time will stand at a 202.27, currently second in the clubman class, but we will see if he gets pipped there.
Time to jump back in. Shame about missing John there. He was a chance to hunt down Flash, and the battle for second place was going to be a big focus of this session. So we'll have to see how it plays out without him.
That definitely opens the door for Tim to at least take second place off of him. There's only 3 tenths between the two of them right now, so that could be any corner, any sector in this track over 1 lap. I wonder how it must feel like for these drivers to go from the crazy cars of Unlimited back to the clubman cars.
Oh my god, it must feel so slow. You're sitting there just basically standing still on
maybe not so much at the start of the session, because you start out with these clubman cars, but when you go through the first cycle, you're entering the Unlimited class, and the next thing you do after just 3 minutes in between sessions is to go straight back to the slow 550 pp SM cars.
Yeah, like going from slow to fast, you have to catch up. When you go from fast to slow, it is just like the weirdest feeling. Nothing moves, and you're sitting there thinking your braking point's too late, it's too early. At least with these cars, they are sort of similar enough in grip. You don't blast past apexes because you're thinking you've got downforce and suddenly you don't. You're actually at a roughly similar level of grip. Granted, you're on 2 tires harder, but you're not sitting there looking for grip that isn't there because you're expecting downforce, because they've roughly all got a little bit more grip as opposed to a lot more grip, but it's still going to be impossible to calibrate. It'll probably take a couple of laps for everyone to reset and get themselves back in the groove.
It's definitely true, especially with the drivers who were driving cars in Unlimited. They were so hard to control. How Tim's car was just not able to put the power down at all through the main straight, and all the way even up to the back straight going into the bus stop. And then Flash goes from the R32 straight back to the Porsche 911.
He'd be loving being able to get to 100% throttle again.
Definitely, look, he definitely is all the way, pinned all the way, going across the line to start his first flying lap. Here's Tim Lord. Interesting car choices here from Max Pichetti, because last week at Road Atlanta he brought the same car to at least 2 classes. He brought the BMW M3 in both Clubman and Modified, and now he's brought the Audi TT in Unlimited and in Clubman. It'll be interesting.
Yeah, I was considering that. Can you run a car in all 3 classes and just have different tunes for the Clubman, Modified, and Unlimited? But looks like Max is having a crack at that, at least across Clubman and Unlimited.
Obviously different generations of cars. The Audi TT he had in Unlimited was the earlier version of the Audi TT. Meanwhile, this one is the TT RS, the newer one. So it's a totally different car as well. But yes, you could run, if you really wanted to, you could run the same car in all 3 classes. Have 3 different cars prepared for each class, and just do it like that. Of course, PP permitting, of course, for the Clubman and Modified classes. But you can go wild with Unlimited. If that car has engine swaps, definitely a possible option for our entrance in this series.
Yeah, I should have sort of said the same model as opposed to the same car, because of course you can never have the one with the engine swap and the one without the engine swap at the same time. You have to have 2 different cars there, but they're the same model, quote unquote. So Max has obviously got a TT, but a different TT, if that makes sense. It's still the same body shape, it's still the same TT. sort of styling, if that makes sense. Whereas you could have an R34 GTR and R32 GTR. They'd both be a GTR, but they're not, they're not both R32s or R34s. Whereas Max is in the same generation of TT, just different models within that range.
Yep, and everyone really still looking to recalibrate themselves back to the Clubman cars. Flash right now 2 seconds off his session 1 best, and Tim second off his session 1 best, currently sitting on top of the 203.5. Reminder that the current session leader is Flash in the Porsche with a 201.7. There's still a lot of time left to find until they get close to that lap time.
Sort of settling in with the longer lap time, slower up. But as we saw in the first session, no one really went directly to the quick lap times. It was about the 10-minute mark when we started seeing people going for fresh tyres, doing cool-down laps to really start calibrating themselves to the pace of these cars. So I wouldn't be too stressed early on about not having pace, because everyone sort of took their time in the first session anyway to come up to speed here in the Clubman class. So we're just sort of waiting for everyone to get their act together and get themselves dialed in, as Tim finds another 2/10 on this lap to go try and get closer to 2:03.0. So I'm not sure what he did in the first session. Is he actually on target to beat his PB at this point?
His PB in the first session was a 202.5, so it's still a ways away here.
Yeah, okay, so he's got a second to find, and he's only found 2/10 of the 10 required. So I expect the times to continue to improve throughout the session as everyone spends a couple laps getting the tyres up to temperature from out of the box, and then starts to overheat them and have to cool them and muck around and do all those sort of things. Because we definitely saw it took a couple of laps for the tyres to come on.
It's another interesting point here is that we have a different track time here for session 2. We now are in the afternoon session as opposed to the early morning sessions we had in session 1. So how much of a difference would that make? We will see. But last week at Road Atlanta, we saw some cars get close to their early morning best laps, but not quite being faster than them in the afternoon. Well, some did find some improvements, but generally the consensus was that the afternoon session was just a bit slower at some points, and like there probably is a point in the session where the tires are at the perfect temperature. You can get that one lap in where it's just fast, where it's just really fast. But the rest of the session, like, the car is gonna feel like it's a bit too much, probably because the tires are overheating a bit quicker with the warmer temperatures. I'm not certain of that, but that is definitely one thing to consider in this session as well.
Yeah, generally the rule of thumb is the hotter the track is, the less grip you've got in the context of a warm climate such as America. If you're in, say, England, for example, and your options are 4 degrees and 10 degrees, you'll probably get more grip in the 10-degree session because the rubber is definitely not nearly malleable enough in the 4-degree weather to generate grip. But here in sunny conditions, it'll be 30 degrees, sort of 40-degree track temp, lovely bright sun. You definitely want the cooler temperatures to try and go as fast as possible.
So doing cool down laps might be the way to go here, it feels like, especially once the tires starts reaching the point where it just doesn't grip because of it's like already overheating. Flash now definitely closing in on Tim here on track.
Tim, I think, was on a decent lap to improve, although not, never mind. I misread the splits. But yeah, Flash puts one together, 2:02.4.
Still 7/10 off his personal best, but good enough to take the lead in this session so far.
It's a big lead so far. The 5 for third in this part of the session, though, we've got Tex coming across the line here. Will he improve? Yes, he does, with a 2:05.0 to now go 6/10 clear of NFL in his Honda Integra, who was only 2/10 clear of Max Eddy, who's just finished a previous lap. Wasn't an improvement, and he will be waiting to... Sorry, we'll be spending this lap trying to improve on that again. Looked like he was in 6th gear very early there, waiting for the rev supply. So a lot of rev change on this gearbox, but it's the correct final ratio. I'm not sure if his fifth gear needs to be made a little bit longer so that it doesn't bog out nearly as hard. But that's the art of custom gearboxes, which I'm not sure you can do in Club Mechanic. I assume you can.
Yep, that's allowed.
Yeah, okay, just that fifth gear seems a little short. Maybe it's just the way that engine revs up in that gearbox. Could be that it needs the old school flip or whatever to try and bring it back. Do those work still in 7?
Those work to a certain extent, but not on the same degree as it did in 6 and Sport.
And 5 and 4.
And 5 and 4. But it's still a thing. It is a thing, yeah. But like, you know, when you've been racing for that long, you default to that. The first thing you do when you set up a car is not really touch the suspension. Now go to gearbox, do the flip, and see if it works.
Works, do the flip. Right, now where are we at when I've got real amounts of power on corner exit?
You just start thinking like, is this final good enough? Nah, let's go a bit wider, let's go a bit shorter. And then you start adjusting the gears specifically, individually as well. Tim improves to a 2-3-1. Still not enough though. He's still 6/10 off his personal best. And more importantly, 8/10 off what he needs to overtake John for second in the overall standings of Clubman class.
But we're at the 10-minute mark now. We're starting to see guys making strides towards making improvements. And with that thing about gearboxes, like the amount of torque you have coming from the rear wheels on corner exit changes how the car handles. So making a gearbox change can actually change the car balance from understeer to oversteer or oversteer to understeer without changing the suspension. So it's really important to have things like those gear ratios sorted out nice and early so that you can tune around them. Because if you go and change the gearbox ratio, you have to go retune the suspension.
That's just how much of an impact gearbox tuning has on the balance of a car, especially in these road cars where the balance is like you can easily find the limits of the tires. So having a gearbox that keeps you below.
You're right on that limit. You're slide rear to get the car to rotate. So changing that balance can be huge to gain and lose time if you're accidentally shuffling your balance during this perfect drift to understeer or now going too much towards oversteer. And to get the lap time, you have to be right on that limit. And I can see NFL struggling for front grip. Man needs to take away a lot of rear grip in order to make the car rotate through these long sweepers. Max those rear springs, run some toe out, maximum rear ARB, trying to get the rear just to move. But it keeps overheating the the outside front tyres under understeer, and it gets back on throttle and the tyres already overheating. He gets wheel spin as a result, and the traction control kicks in.
It is worth noting though that changing your settings mid-session is allowed now here. So if these drivers even realize like there's the setup change that they could do to maybe try to find improvements in the car's handling, they could do that by going back to the pits and just changing setups like you would normally on a practice lobby. And I think that's what NFL's been doing earlier in the modified class with the Ford GT. I think I've seen him go back to the pits a couple times do that.
You're correct. In my head, you'd want to make these changes between sessions and then spend, a third of the session, half of the session evaluating and then maybe making another change, because you don't really want to have to make a change and then undo it mid-session. You'd really like to lock that set change at the start and then just work out how to drive it, because with each lap you do, you're learning more and you can do more with the car because you understand it better with each lap. So it's really hard to make changes like that on the fly when you've only got 9 laps in the session before you start losing them to in-laps and out-laps and setting changes.
Yeah, it's worth noting as well that we only have 20-minute sessions, and on that note, we've crossed the 7-minute mark, or 7 minutes left. We're only at 6.5 minutes left in the session as NFL goes back to the pits to make some setup changes. Another thing I noticed on that Integra is that he has traction control on, which normally you wouldn't on an FF car, but it's there to prevent the wheel spin from the front wheels. I'm assuming that's the purpose of it, because of when the car
feels like that.
When you turn the car too much, like the wheels just start spinning really violently in those front wheel drive cars. So in order to not let that happen, that traction control is there to modulate the throttle.
what it's doing is it's stopping the inside front wheel from unhooking, because it's now the unloaded tyre, but it's still getting the same amount of torque. You haven't got an active diff forcing torque to the outside wheels for torque vectoring purposes. So it starts spinning up the inside wheel. Then once the inside wheel starts spinning up, the torque starts being shuffled around, and then both wheels start spinning up. You just understeer clean off the road. So that's why he's got traction control there, so that he can get back on throttle. And if he does slightly overshoot, traction control just keeps it in line and stops him from understeering clean off the road, keeps his car turning and still accelerating. As Flash was on an improving lap there, and he does improve by 400ths of a second to a 202.3.
202.3 would put him in third if we're comparing him into the session 1 time. So definitely not finding some time here in the second session for the clubman class. Even Tim right now sitting on a personal best of a 202.9, still 4/10 away from his best in session 1. Ooh, that's a very interesting line there to the bus stop chicane, and the game punishes him for it. Flash gets reset. I feel like he just missed the breaking point for the bus stop here. Cuts the grass to the inside and gets reset.
Yeah, that was not his finest work, but with the advantage he holds right now, it does not really matter. He's able to make those kind of mistakes and get away with it because he has a lead in this session and a lead overall. So he can afford to take crazy risks into a couple of corners to try and find some time, because at the moment there is no one pressuring him for the win with second place, not in this run at the moment, and Tim Law unable to steal second place from John at this stage. But in typical Tim fashion, that's not going to stop him trying. He's down to a 202.9 and is still 4/10 away from his own PB, and I think that means he is 6.5 or 7/10 away from John in P2. Starting to wonder if we should be running these sessions the other way around, with afternoon first and morning later in the run, so that we get the faster session in the second half, meaning that the competition ramps up rather than you have to fight the track conditions to try and get the lap time, even if you have made your car better.
That's a point worth considering going forward with this series. Definitely worth considering that the second session would be the faster one, theoretically.
Yeah, I guess it just depends how much the track time changes the performance. And you said last time the front guys didn't really improve, but a couple of people did. It's probably there or thereabouts, but here it looks like no one's getting anywhere near their previous bests to improve. Has anyone actually improved? Has Taxman improved there with his 203.4?
Tex definitely has improved with the 203.4. He is now almost a second clear of his session 1 lap time. His session 1 best was a 4.3, actually.
So it's a really good improvement there. NFL now coming out of the pits for another change. He'll have one flying lap at the end of the session. He'll do an out lap here and then have one flying lap to try and improve. And Max as well, still at 205.8. He has made a huge improvement over his session 1 time because he didn't have a session 1 time. And he will get 2 flying laps to try and improve again, and he's unable to improve on this lap.
Speaking of improvements, Tex with a 203.4 and NFL only 2.2 behind him means he's also improving. He is currently sitting at a 205.6, which is an improvement over session 1 best lap of a 206.3. So we have 2 cars improving over the session 1 lap times, while the top 2 right now are nowhere near the session 1 lap times at this moment.
So some good tweaks there in the tuning department, maybe matching the road conditions a little better than the guys at the front who thought they had pretty reasonable cars. Now we've gone out in second session. Maybe that balance isn't quite there with that oversteer, understeer balance, or not quite getting as much front grip as you want to try and set those lap times. Or it could just be there is the drivers who are making gains are just now hooked into these cars a lot better, having done those extra sessions, getting those miles under their belt. You know, maybe a bit green coming into these sessions. They're not getting enough of the same practice in to sort of warm up. And now that they've done the driving, they've done the hard stuff. Now they're driving easy cars. Suddenly they feel so much easier to control. They're all over it.
That could very well be the case here. As at this point, at the start of this session, all of these drivers that have been on track since the start of this event have been doing laps for an hour around Watkins Glen. But definitely a good point that some of these drivers might have just warmed up enough to the point where going back to these Clubman cars gives them a bit more confidence to push and find so much more time compared to session 1. But it was really their first 20 minutes around this track with these cars.
Practice had only been 5 minutes long or so. It was a really short practice session. Excuse me. Before things got going, and not everyone was practicing Clubman, for example. We saw a lot of people driving their unmodified, unrestricted cars in that practice session. So it might have been a little bit of a readjustment period for some of those guys as well.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. And we're looking at the lap times of Tim. He's consistently in the low 203s, but he's just not finding enough to gain, get anywhere close to his.
Read that out. It's a 3-2, a 3-1, a 2-9, a 3-2, a 3-1, a 3-0, and it looks like he's going to do another 3-2 here.
It's like, on brand for him as well.
That man, like, there is nothing to gain. Like, that's incredible.
That's on brand for him as well. Even at Road Atlanta in the first session, he was doing the same thing. He was doing consistent lap times for like the whole session, for the whole 20 minutes.
He's got a 203.5 and a 203.6 in there, but if we just ignore those, they're all the same. It's another 3-2, and it's not even like they're high 3-2s. It's 3-2-2 on lap 6 there, so 7 there, and a 3-2-3 on lap 10. And he's done with 6 laps within 2.5 tenths. That's insane. Let's flash boxes as he crosses the line to finish.
You gotta wonder if he remembers that this is a time attack series. He's running a race to pretty much this 20 minutes.
Yeah, he really was. Yeah, he could have taken a risk somewhere to try and improve, but was unable to do so. As we see Tex finishing up there with another 203.
NFL finishes with a 206. It's almost the exact same time as he had in the first session as well at 206.3. But he does finish with the best of a 205.6.
And the only man who can take his position away from him is Max McKinney, is coming through the last corner. Oh, but a slide there, doesn't get past the walk cleanly, costs him time. Will he get there? Don't think so. No, not quite. It's a 206.0, and he misses out by 0.2 of a second himself and 4 to NFL, I think. I'd have to check the numbers there and give us the results, Noah.
All right, for the second session of Clubman class, we have a complete sweep of Clubman here by the Flash 05 again being the fastest in the second session with the lap time of 202.356, but that won't matter as his best lap in session 1 stands at a 201.716. Tim finishes with a lap time of 202.993 in the Ford Sierra, but that's also slower than his best lap in the first session, which was a 202.566. This means he ends up in third behind John's BMW, who finishes with a 202.2. So yeah, John not being in the session didn't matter in the end as he still keeps his second place. Meanwhile, Big Tex in the S2000 will finish in fourth with the final lap time of a 203.412, an improvement over his session 1 best, which was a 204.3. NFL will finish the event in fifth with another improvement of a 205.6 over his previous best of a 206.3 in the Integra Type R. Max McKinney's one and only session of the Clubman class will finish in 6th place with a lap time of 205.8. Very interesting result here in Clubman class. Last week we had a Ford Roadster, a very uncanny car taking the win, but now we have a more conventional sports car, if you could even call a Porsche 911 a conventional sports car, taking the win. But consistently, Tim and John have been in the podium as well. They were also second and third last week at Road Atlanta, so still close competition when it comes to the point standings. But yeah, very interesting result here in Clubman class with another different car as the race winner, or the time attack rankings winner, I should say.
You need to come up with a catchy title for that, like, Super Bowl winner or something like that. You gotta come up with a catchy title for it.
Yeah, but we can't do Super Bowl. It's not just one lap.
No. I'm not suggesting Super Bowl. You need something like that where everyone instantly recognizes, this is the Vertex time attack victor, the guy who blank.
I'm gonna need some help with that, I feel like.
The winner is the time terrorist, because it's time attack, right? You're attacking, so it's the time terrorist. I don't know.
My channel ain't monetized yet. Don't get me demonetized right away.
But yeah, you need something like that, where it's like, it's the catchy title of the winner. Any bad jokes are like extra appreciated too. Now, the one thing I don't like about the Watkins Glen map is how empty the parking lot is. There are 48 transporters in the background, but there are like 16 cars in the parking lot. Like, what is this? Why is it 20% full? This should be jam-packed for the spectacle that is the Vertex Time Attack series. We have some great drivers, some incredible cars, and Max Eddy continues to use the Audi TT.
He is now completed.
Is going to use an Audi TTS Coupe 2014 of some description in every class. The man is the people's hero.
He has now completed a trio of the Audi TTs in Clubman Modified and Unlimited class. You can only bring one car per class as the rule. So he has to show up to Unlimited with the same TT he had earlier.
So it's not Max McEddy, it's Max McTTS.
Max McTTS. That's what we're gonna call her from here on out. So again,
TTS Eddie? Maybe TTS Eddie. How about
TTS
that?
Eddie. Well, once again, Tech's not registered for modified class, so we're only going to have 4 cars again on track for session 2 of modified. Quick rundown of the previous results of the modified class. We have again Flash 05 in the lead in WRX Group B road car with a lap time of 151.321. John, who's unfortunately not here for the second session, is second in the NSX with a 152.4. Tim in the S2000 is in third with a 153.3, and NFL in fourth in the C8 Corvette with the 154.109. Very close battle between Tim and NFL right now, and I wonder, did Tim make adjustments to the S2000 in between sessions to put more power in that car at the cost of more weight?
Maybe even taking rear wing off, maybe. He could have done a number of things to try and buy some horsepower to get back in the fight, try and potentially catch and pass John for second place. But we'll have to wait and see. On the outlap there, he's a little lift through turn 3 and 4, so he's just casually driving along before he starts attacking. I can absolutely see Tim not making those changes because the car was going away from the end of the session with tyres that were most probably overheating, and hopefully he saw through that to understand where the car balance really was in the first part of the session when he could be making those important changes for lap time.
That's interesting to see it while we still are looking at the current class leaders still sitting in the pits in the WRX reward car.
Flexing on the field by just sitting in pit lane with no interest in going out so far. That or he could have, walked away and then not realised the session was starting, which is entirely possible.
It could be.
You've gone off, took a cup of tea, forgot the session was starting, and then comes back in 20 minutes time and goes, "Oh no, I forgot to take part." That's just grandpa things.
Yeah, but with the lead he has, he definitely has, with the lead he has on hand, he could really do that. Unless Tim magically finds 2 seconds, then he'll have to go out and try to beat that.
I think Tim could find our second with some PP manipulation to try and get some more power, but I don't think Tim can get 2 seconds. He's good, but I don't know if he's that good.
again, this man has surprised us now and again with all the races.
I wouldn't say now and again. It's kind of impressive how often he surprises us, because we know what he's capable of, and yet he still surprises us. That's the real feat. Like, that's the really impressive part, is when we know what he can do, and he just still finds a way to exceed expectations.
That is true. Like, it takes something for you to be, you know you're good, but damn. Almost every time, goes a bit too deep into the bus stop and cuts the chicane, which definitely gives him dirty tires.
Yeah, it looked like a little wiggle there where he tried to turn it in and then had to catch the rear, so maybe he has made the rear a little more unstable with either more power, less swing, some weight change, maybe a bit more rear weight to try and buy some horsepower. So maybe he's gone a little bit too far there trying to buy that performance, but we'll have to wait and see if that works out or not.
That definitely
the session evolves.
That definitely looked like the rear was sliding into the bus stop, but it just a little bit too much, and when he tried to correct it, the front just gained grip back and just sent him off straight
classic,
into the chicane.
Classic tank slapper sort of scenario where you try and catch a slide, and then in actually catching the slide, you now throw the car at the barriers. It's an annoying thing, because you get punished for doing the right thing as opposed to just letting the car spin and look like a complete idiot. You end up throwing the car at the fence, having a massive crash and getting big damage by trying to keep the car alive.
I feel like this was the same thing that John was doing in the NSX, but he had the advantage of four-wheel drive and hybrid, so he had torque going to the front wheels, which kept him on. Which kept the trajectory of the car going straight out of the chicane.
Yeah, that front-wheel drive was able to pull him out of those slides, as opposed to only being rear drive, where he makes those slides worse. As Max McKinney, TTS Eddie and TTS Max. No, Max TTS, there we go, it's all TTS all the time. Max TTS takes the lead with a 55.5 at the moment. Big drift up through turn 3 in top gear. So he's carrying those 6 gears for a long time, and I reckon he's going to have to get a new 6th gear as he's in the rev limiter the entire way up the back straight. But he's a 2/10 up on himself as Big NFL goes fastest with a 154.6, 8/10 clear at the moment in his Corvette C8. Is it a Z01 or a Z06? I can't remember.
It is a Stingray. I feel like in this game it's simply a Stingray Corvette. It's neither a ZR1 or a Z06.
I think the base one is the Stingray or something, because they do all sorts of weird things.
I think it is. I think what we have in the game is the base one as opposed to the ZR1 or the Z06. Which is what's going to be the base car for the real life GT3 car.
Yeah, when they eventually make it and then brand it a Callaway for no reason. I was asked last night why Cadillac are at Le Mans, and I said, well, it's the GM corporation that's running this program. And for whatever reason, they've decided to brand it as Cadillac for marketing purposes. And then he asked me, so what do Cadillac actually make? And I had no idea, so clearly the exercise hasn't worked for marketing the Cadillac product. But I can tell you about the GM, the Chevrolet Corvettes. I can tell you about the Camaros. I can tell you about the things that I'm used to. But yeah, I don't know what Cadillac makes that look anything like the prototypes that they're sending at Le Mans and the IMSA series. As my rambling gets us to Tim Law with a 153.8 in the S2000 to now take the lead of the session 8/10 clear of NFL, who was purple on himself at Sector 2, but has unfortunately got into a loop of understeer, making mistakes, and getting dirty tyres. He's only lost 4/10 in that sector despite the couple of mistakes there, so NFL can absolutely improve and go closer towards Tim Law in this session.
Yeah, Tim Law with a 153.8. Again, the trend continues with the lap times being slower than that of session 1. His best lap time is a 53.3, so he's still around about 5/10 away from beating his personal best.
Flash's tea break has ended, confirmed. His tea has brewed, he has consumed it, and he is now back on track for this second session. Not sure if he saw some splits from Tim Law, or if he just did finish that cup of tea, or if it's sitting there waiting hot and ever getting colder. The worst feat of a cup of tea of all time.
And he's already purple by 8/10 going out of sector 2. That tea break is...
I guess he decided...
I'm gonna guess the tea break was to cool down the tires.
brilliant. Go out there on ultra cold tyres so that they're very grippy on lap 2, because these cars were not having trouble heating up tyres like the Clubman cars were in session 1. Yeah, you're right. That is brilliant. That is actually brilliant. You just sit there for the first couple of minutes, let the tyres cool out, go out and do a cool out lap, and then fire it up. He is way up in this session. What did he do on the first one? A 51, was it?
He did a 51.321 the first session. He's now on course to do another 51, as he does with a 51.622. Only 3/10 away from his personal best in session 1. On the very first time of asking as well.
Flash has found the secret sauce to these categories in terms of managing tyre temps with his slow laps, his delayed out laps. All the things he's doing is giving him a massive advantage here, and he is going to sweep all 3 classes here at Watkins Glen unless someone can pull off a miracle and find a lot of time. He is currently 2 seconds clear of the people in the lobby still, as John, the original John T, is not here for the second runs, and the last class that anyone can have a chance of beating him, he's got a 2.5 second lead there as well. So it's going to be a big ask for anyone to dethrone Flash here today, with his incredible strategy running completely different cars, a rear engine Porsche 911, an all-wheel drive Subaru WRX Group B road car, and the all-wheel drive Nissan R32 GTR Nismo. So completely different cars across all classes, and he's just been quick in all of them.
But you know, he could have been quick if he could have been quicker if he used the Porsche in all of 3 classes.
He doesn't want to show his hand too early. He absolutely has a 997 waiting to go for the modified class. He's just not going to unleash it just yet. He's going to wait until everyone thinks that they've run out of options in that Subaru, and then he'll go back to the Porsche, and then he'll unleash something like the Porsche Carrera GT in Unlimited and just crush everyone.
Oh my god, that is going to be a thing. Boy, the Carrera GT is a banned car, unfortunately, for this series.
Oh, it's banned, you're right. Of course, I forgot it. I thought it was originally on the unbanned list and then snuck through.
It falls under the invitation car and the 1 million credit car list, unfortunately.
Oh, what a shame. I was so excited for that. That moment when he breaks out his true love Porsche. But that explains why he's playing with not the Porsches right now.
It's simply an experiment waiting for the other Porsches. It's data. It's data.
NFL...
The WRX and the R32 are just data cars for the Porsches.
Oh, the WRX makes sense. The GTR is the least keenly Flash car. You know, the only thing going for it is it's from 1990, which makes it perfectly in the window for Flash.
I mean, we did just see the crazy R32 GTR in the super modifieds in Australia.
Oh, that's correct. The that R32 GTR in the sports sedan category as well. Yeah, and it very much got banned very quickly with its ridiculous power output and insane straight line speed. Yeah, that's a floor pan car. That's like actually still got the original GTR chassis to it, as opposed to a roll cage, you know, space frame chassis. It is actually still a road car. You saw NFL there going faster on that previous lap with a 54.3 to improve by 3/10. He's still 5/10 short of Tim Law, and again quicker on this lap, but he's still looking like he's just struggling to get to the apexes in order to make the car rotate the way he wants. So if he can get a clean lap, I can see him finding at least a second here through all of the corners. When you add up the tenths here and there, they become big chunks over time.
Definitely, and right now that lap time of a 154.3 is still 2/10 off his session 1 best of a 54.109. So everyone that ran the first session, which would be our top 3 right now, Flash, Tim Lohr, and NFL, are not finding improvements on their first session lap times. Everyone's getting close. Tim,
tiny improvement.
Tim definitely makes a tiny improvement with 7.84. That just puts him 4/10 away from his personal best.
If you look at Flash's lap times, he's got a 51.6 and a 51.7 back to back there, and then went on one of those long cool down laps with a 2:11 as he now winds up to try another attacking lap. Had to give himself some space to Tim, because he will catch up about 2 seconds when he does one of these flying laps, and we'll actually see where he makes up the time. going into the bus stop chicane here. And it looks like he just takes a straighter line through the bus stop, takes more of the first curb, and it gives him a much cleaner line, whereas it feels like Tim's driving around the first curb, puts him on a weird angle for the second part. He has to bring it back a long way for the third and fourth apexes of the bus stop, and Flash makes up a lot of time there. But it could also be the aero platform of this WRX and its four-wheel drive nature, meaning it's very stable in that section of road, even though he is eating a lot of curb and taking, although it's straight line, it's a much bumpier and riskier route.
It really does look like Flash is taking a more, traditional slow in, fast out line through the whole of the bus stop, where he just gets on the throttle midway through the bus stop and just uses all the torque and acceleration of the four-wheel drive drivetrain gives him, and just propel himself out of the bus stop and onto a good speed onto the following right-hander as well.
It
but
really
of course
does look like a GT3 car. The way he's driving it, it's so stable. There's nothing crazy going on. It's just clean, it's tidy, it's very neat. It's not a Group B, rally car drive. It's a Group 3, GT3, aero sort of car driving style. He's not missing apex, he's making apex. He's very smooth, he's very stable. And Tim improves again with the 53.3 there, and even on that lap we saw Flash was mowing Tim down, comfortably making up time, and was down at second 3, so he backed out for another reset. But Tim, a 53.3, now barely behind his own personal best from session 1, and we've still got over 6 minutes left. He'll have 4 more attempts to improve that lap time.
I wanted to say he improved, but he is still 11 thousandths off his personal best from session 1 right now, Tim Lord.
So how far does he need to go to steal second place away from the original John, who I believe took second in session 1?
He needs a full second from his current lap time right now.
I mean, if you assume the track is 3 or 4 tenths slower, maybe like it was in the first session with Flash being within 3 tenths, you would say that he's gained to be 7 tenths down on John as opposed to a full second, having replicated his lap time here in session 2 compared to session 1. But it's a long way to go. Needs Flash to come up behind him and push him through the straights.
It might that might be the only thing that gets him by John right now. Like, he needs some help on the straights here. Like, we all know the extra thousands quick through the corners, but it's on those spots where the car's just on the throttle, full throttle, where it's just losing time throughout the whole track.
I feel like Flash is gaining time in the corners as well, in those longer sweeping corners, and then he's getting off the corner cleanly, and then the power's kicking in. But I mean, even with a push, I don't know if he can make a full second unless Flash goes around the outside of him and helps him turn while carrying more speed as well. So it's going to be tough for Tim to get it done. But it's up to NFL to try and improve, locking inside front there, which is pretty impressive, despite ABS being active. And Max TTS Max, after his early 155.5, has not improved so far, struggling a bit as he gets oversteered on the way into these corners, and it isn't quite quick for him. It glides, overheats the tyre, and he can't get on the power cleanly, and then it snaps into a slide, bit of wheel spin, and loses time by running wide on the exit. He's now 4 tenths down on his own PB at sector 3. 2 quarters remaining, he'll have another reset, and he'll now get another 2, maybe 3 laps, I think, just. Or it's going to be tight if he gets another 2 or 3 laps. He might be the first man to finish, or he'll be the last man across the line with just under 4 minutes remaining.
Looking at NFL coming up to the final corner to finish this lap, it's not going to be an improvement, but that Corvette still has the potential for much faster lap time than what it has right now. NFL just struggling to hit all the marks when he needs it to.
Yeah, it looks like he's done a little reset there and changed some settings, so maybe he's trying out a new change, and that could be what he's still adjusting to here. Looking for either more front or more rear. I'm not sure what he's done, but we'll have to wait and see if the change plays out for him.
I don't know if that's lag, but
Tim's backwards in the boot. So Tim trying very hard, looped it in the boot there. Don't know if he was up or down, unfortunately, at that point, but clearly he is trying very hard, pushing as hard as he can, and he will get 2 more flying laps, I believe. maybe have to do a nice slow lap here and cross the line at 19 and 55 sort of thing. Anyway.
NFL earlier going up the hill looked like he understeered going into turn at the exit of turn 3 going into 4. Really got close to the wall there in the exit. Gotta wonder what these, if whatever setup changes he did work, or did it cost him some time in the other sections where he didn't intend to change the car's handling, because that thing, because you know, setting
like it's
changes, like setup changes in the middle of a session isn't a bad thing, but it can easily go wrong with one bad setup change. Really, like the corners your car was good at, and before the change suddenly turned really bad.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point, where you can go looking to try and improve your weakest area and actually take away your biggest strengths by accident without really realizing it. And then suddenly your lap time doesn't improve, and you go, the car feels better, why is it slower? And it takes, you know, stepping back or someone from the outside going, oh, you're not as good here anymore. And then you have to try and work out that balance, because tuning is never ultimatums in that respect, where it's, you know, I'm always improving the car. You're always trading one thing for something else. And at certain tracks like this, where you've got high speed, low speed, mid speed, long straights, short straights, you're always trading one area for another, and you can actually go nowhere on lap time even if the car is better.
It's always really balancing, like which areas do you want to compromise? Like, do you want to compromise like low speed for faster high speed? Maybe you can get some more time in the high speed while not trading off too much in the low speed. Around
here, because you've got the longer sweeping corners, you might, you know, trade a little bit of that stop and point nature of the car. You get a bit more rotation in the mid speed, because the mid speed corners are so long. So you'll lose a tenth in the low speed, gain 3 or 4 back in the high speed sort of thing. So it is absolutely a balancing act, and that's the art of tuning, and especially in these road cars where all the tuning options aren't necessarily as effective. They are more effective than the aero, and you have to try and make it all work with a very fine adjustment. The window is so much narrower, if that makes sense, on these road cars.
Yeah, considering the fact that even these road cars, even the unlimited class cars, still don't have as much aero as let's say a Group 3 race car. So yeah, these cars are leaning more on the mechanical side of things instead of the aero side of things. So yeah, tuning is going to be definitely much more important.
In terms of aero, in terms of like a Group 3 car has a lot of aero. These feel like Group 4 cars in terms of the aero they've got. And then they're putting down, you know, way more power than a Group 4. Like, I think these cars have got GT3 levels of power, but GT4 levels of aero, and then the unlimited class is probably closer to GT3 levels of aero, but about 1,000 horsepower to play with.
They got like Group 1 levels of horsepower. It feels like even.
Well, Group 1 wishes it had 1,000 horsepower.
I mean, some cars have Group 1 engines, like take the R32, take Flash's R32, Pilo's R34, and Cross's R34, for example.
Yeah, these cars have 800 horsepower, but they're putting turbos on.
And Flash is purple right now on his final lap. 210s out of Sector 2, purple right now.
NFL unfortunately pitting, giving up his run. But we'll follow Flash to the flag, and we'll go back with everyone else. Oh, look deep! No, didn't get stopped. Look deep
into the transition. Oh, maybe the four-wheel drive can save him. He lost a few hundreds there. Yeah, he only lost a few hundreds, but he's still 2/10. Going into the final corner, just don't go deep. Hits the apex perfectly.
Got on the throttle very early, ran it all the way out to the wall, and now he crosses the line. Does he beat his session one time? No!
2/10 off his session one time. Oh, actually, no, only a 10th.
Time there.
He is only a 10th and a half off his session one time. Sorry.
That's a very good effort there. As we see Tim coming through last corner, that was a nice clean final corner as well, but I don't think he's going to improve. No, it is 6/10 down. It didn't look like the splits were lining up for him. He did another 53.3 this session. Was unable to get near it again. 53.5, his best run. And TTS max TTS to the max. His 55.5 on lap 2 was his best lap. He has a 55.5 on lap 10 as well, but it wasn't quite as quick. Does he get it done? Not looking like it. With another slide out of the last corner. Does not improve and finishes the modified class in 4th place here in this session with a 1:55.5 on his second lap in the TTS, Audi TTS. which is his car for all sessions, so good on him.
Alright, going to the final results of the modified class. In session 2, we have the Flash 05 again winning this session with a time of 151.487 in the WRX Group B road car, which unfortunately wasn't an improvement, but still his first session lap time of 151.321 is enough to give him another class win in this event, now winning the both Clubman and modified classes. In second place for the overall Clubman class, modified class ranking is gonna be the original John T with the NSX, a lap time of 152.403. He was considerably ahead of Tim Lore, who finishes in third in the S2000 with a lap time of 153.348. His session 2 lap time barely slower than the session 1 lap time. Finishing in fourth in the modified class is NFL in the Corvette C8 with the final lap time of a 54.1. Again, his session 2 lap time, not an improvement, got close, like last week as well. In fifth place for modified class would be Max Brichetti, or Max TTS, in the Audi TTS Coupe with the lap time of a 155.509. His first and only session here in the modified class.
We'll finally get to see him run in a repeat session for the final session of the unlimited class, unrestricted, unbelievable class, kind of. So we will finally get to run a second session. I believe he did join the lobby after this session had already started in the first one.
That's correct.
And had to wait for the session to end before the unmodified could start. Unrestricted could start. If this was the unmodified class, it would be a very different class. Nowhere near as entertaining as watching.
This is nowhere near as entertaining.
80% throttle and 200 kilometers an hour in fourth gear. Anyway,
I think the more important question here now is, can the Flash 05 complete the clean sweep of Clubman Modified and Unlimited as we go on to the second session of Unlimited?
I would be willing to put a significant fortune on yes, he can. It's looking like these afternoon track session temperatures are not working. Potentially it could be the wind as well. It is worth noting that the wind did change from a 1.7 meter per second, which is, kilometers per hour. As a west-southwesterly has become a pure westerly at 2.2 meters per second. So it's 20% more wind, and it's now a pure crosswind rather than a slight angle across. And that does affect the way the cars handle. They do turn a little bit differently in through corners with the wind changing across the side of it. Obviously, the heavier the car is, the less it affects it. But with the lighter these cars are, the more you can feel those changes. Especially in Super Formula, even GT3 cars really feel it because they are ultimately only 1,300 kilos and they have a lot of aero, and that aero to weight ratio really shows up those changes in.
The final session of Unlimited. We're just waiting for everyone to get on track. While we are waiting for everyone to get on track, let's run down the results from session 1 of the Unlimited class. So currently in first place is the Flash 05 with the Nissan Skyline R32 GTR Nismo with a 140.027. Second place is Big Tex in the C7 Corvette with a 142.696. Sitting in third is the original John T with the 4-rotor Mazda 3 with a 143.324. Tim Lore is in fourth in the V8 powered S14 Silvia with a 143.548. In fifth is NFL in the Ford GT with a 143.905, and Max TTS in the TTS Coupe 14 powered by an Audi R8 V8 with a 148.612.
See, that was the mistake there. They put the V8 in the back, but not the V10, the lovely sounding V10 Audi R8. The original V8, I believe the original was V8, wasn't it?
The original was a V8, then they made a
V10.
V10.
Yeah.
I think the marketed it first as the Audi R8 V10, and then the subsequent, with the second generation R8, you just made it like, let's just go with a V10.
Just the R8, yeah. Because we're not going to make a V8 again. Of course, the Audi R8 was based off the Audi R8, which was based off the Audi R8, because of course Audi had to have very logical things. Where they either had the LMP 900 Audi R8, and they had the GT3 Audi R8 for the road car Audi R8. You know, yeah, it was interesting choices there at Audi, but they eventually got their stuff together and they decided to just, hey, everything that's an Audi R18 from now on will be called an R18. We're no longer rebadging it. We can't be having the R27.
Imagine if we had the R10 as a road car.
Oh my god, it would be terrible.
A diesel supercar like the R10 basically.
A diesel V12. I mean, you can get that Touareg engine that was like basically the, you know, their production version of it. But can you imagine having 700 horsepower, 600 horsepower in a diesel V12 making over 1,000 Newton meters of torque in a road car? You'd just put it on the road and then tires would disappear and tarmac would be forever damaged.
All that
Like you would have
torque
the
off the
all-wheel
line.
drive.
I did all that torque off
Tim
of a
getting brave
stop.
here. Tim getting brave there, using full throttle in third gear and then being punished immediately by overshooting the next corner.
I mean, he's at least finding some, like, he's at least trying out where the limits actually are in this thing. Instead of just being at 80% throttle to the base straight the whole time. But that car definitely
Wonder what changes he's made.
That car definitely has enough torque to like, keep accelerating even though he's not a full throttle. He can definitely get.
You know, honestly, just needs to pull third gear and go 100% throttle. Oh, wow,
Well,
he's using full
now he
throttle
does.
for a lot of them. That's all wheel spin. Oh my god.
Yeah, that's all wheel spin. Wheel spin in third gear with traction control. Let's
Traction
go.
control doing nothing to help. Traction control looking at that going,
Oh,
you're
there
on
it
your
goes.
own. And there it is. Traction control just saying, no buddy, this is your problem, not mine. Right in front of NFL there, who was in the pits, and whoever's coming through, it's
That's
Tex,
Tex.
on his blind lap. So Tim looking for more rear grip and immediately being punished, and it goes on him again. He's going to have to find more traction control and to cool off those tires. Tim, they're smoking, buddy. Chill out. Let them cool down. They're running 120 degrees Celsius. For those of you who don't speak metric, yeah, that's very hot for a tire. They're happy at like 90 degrees is probably the absolute upper limit of tires in real life. In the game, I think 80 is the
Racing
absolute
cars.
upper limit.
For racing tires, the upper limit is around about like 80. Going into 90, that's already way overheated.
Yeah, in this game it's like 80 is the upper limit. In real life it depends on the compound and all the other factors where 90, 95, once you start getting near 100 things start to go wrong. I think that's where the Formula 1 tires are at, because they're just so soft and with so much load they have to be capable of dealing with that temperature. But with these race tires, no, 80 is max. So when you're going over 100, it's not a good time.
Like if I remember correctly, in this game, the racing tires, when coming out of the pits, they all start at 60 degrees Celsius.
Yeah, that'll be a tire blanket or a tire and oven sort of temperature, whereby you come out of the pits with 60 degrees, and then the operating temperature is definitely above that, but you never have your tire exiting the pits at operating temperature unless you're running like Formula 1 spec tire blankets before they started regulating temperatures. As Tex sets the first represented lap time, it's a 43.7.
43.7 puts him 1.1 seconds behind this personal best in session 1.
Which, considering that was his first qualifying lap, is actually really impressive, because we were seeing one good lap in the session from these guys. In Texas, I think next best lap was about 1.5 seconds behind that when he put it all together to get that lap. So that's his second best lap of the weekend already on lap 1. So great start from Big Tex. So looking good for him to improve this session.
Got a bit of the throttle too early there out of the right-hander, but still managed to catch it. Good line there to the left-hander in the Corvette. Going into the boot
And
now.
worth noting, he's ahead of Flash at this moment in time. Flash unable to defeat Tex's early lap time, but we'll have to wait and see for Flash to wind it up and try and get one together. Only 45.2 from him.
Tex still purple out of the boot. Oh, and
Oh no! Oh,
Good
just
save.
lit the car up on the curb there and was punished with a big tank slapper.
just, but
Still 9/10 up,
tenths
though.
up.
He's literally about to match his best lap from the previous session, even with that mistake. Oh, looks like he runs wide there. He'll have dirty tyres. That's going to cost him a lot in the final corner. Yep, understeer and then oversteer on throttle. Big wobbles. Oh, that's unfortunate for Tex. He actually could have improved, but unfortunately it's only a 43.1, losing a lot of time in the final sector. But great signs from him. He is dialed in on this car already.
Says a lot, given the difficulty of driving these cars just consistently.
Oh,
NFL.
and Flash goes long. He was on target. Oh, NFL, well done. It's a 44.0.
He is only
That's-
1/10 off his personal best session 1.
And that's his first flying lap. He missed the start and was a lap behind.
I think he was making either he was not around or he was making setup changes at the start of the session.
Oh
I don't know.
yeah, he just missed the start. And he's already a 10.5 up on himself through sector 1. So NFL could be on to improve his personal best lap very early in this final session 2 of the unlimited class. I'm going to stay with him. I'm not sure if you want to follow anyone else.
And it's
He's
gonna
catching
be
up on him.
and it's gonna be a difficult one. It's gonna be a difficult one for Tim because NFL, Tim, and John are all within the 143 second range. So anyone who improves significantly from this session will be on course for a podium finish.
NFL unfortunately went deep just as he started entering the boot section of Watkins Glen. Started to see a lot of Tim there and must have been red misting underneath him trying to catch up. So unfortunately for NFL, he'll have to wait another lap to improve.
Tex is looking to improve again on his best lap here as he comes around the final corner. A much cleaner exit compared to the last time. He doesn't get the penultimate corner wrong. Improves to a 142.687. We now have our first improvement of this session.
That's a huge gain, and that's just not running wide and getting dirty tyres. You could see the car got off that last corner so much cleaner. Hit the apex, was able to get on the throttle, didn't snap nearly as badly. And Tim also improves to a 44.4.
Tim improves to a 43 to a 4, he said 43, 44. Oh, it's a 44.4, not quite enough.
Yep. Unfortunately. We go back to Flash here, who is 1.8 seconds purple at this moment in time. He's hooking one up. He made a couple of mistakes in the previous lap, and it meant he had not got across. So the incredible GTR, a bit of a struggle for him so far in 4th place, but that is about to change as he now comes to the line, unleashing all 1,000+ horsepower. It's a 140.1. That's basically the same as his first session. Was that not a 40.0 or a 39.9?
It was a 40.0 from the first session.
Oh, that's right, because he was going to go 39.9 and lost a 10 or something in the last sector. And, yep, he's straight away back on pace. And it carries full throttle for such a long time. Oh, my Lord. He's up a 10.5 in the first sector, but I think with this car, the braking point is actually before the sector split. So you have to be on the brakes before the sector split. And he was a little bit deep through the bus stop by the looks of things. This feels like he's not pushing, but at the same time, it's just so quick in a straight line and full throttle. Anything that's not full throttle feels slow.
Yeah, but unfortunately, with the brakes, with the effectiveness of the brakes in these cars, you really have to nail the braking point, which is a lot further back than what you would expect in the Clubman and the modified cars, just because of how much speeds these cars are carrying going into those turns.
And it's worth noting that because these cars are so difficult to drive off the exits of the previous corners, the speed you arrive at into the next corner is changing by not 1 or 2 kilometers now like you would in a GT3 car.
10, 20.
It's changing by 10, 15, 20 kilometers now because you got off the previous corner much cleaner or much worse, and you have to try and adjust how much to brake for that extra 10 to 15 kilometers an hour. You know, that's 10 miles an hour difference, corner to corner entry.
It's the one thing that makes these cars so difficult to drive consistently.
You're just fighting the car for longer. So, you know, in a GT3 car, you brake, you turn in, you throttle, your traction's like grip limited on the lateral, then your grip limited on the throttle, and you get on the throttle and on the throttle for, you know, 80%, 100% throttle time. Tim's probably got like 20%, 100% throttle time. Not even 10%, because he's on down the straights, not using 100% throttle. So your grip limited for so much longer in these cars that the corner-to-corner variance, lap to lap, is enormous.
We've now crossed the halfway point of this session. Just a little under 10 minutes left here for these drivers to set faster lap times from their session 1 times.
Flash there, deep into the bus stop again, knowing he was deep, basically just about hits the wall on the way through the first part of the bus stop. He knew he had to just straight line that as much as possible, and still ran wide through the second half on a pretty decent line there. So it'll be another cool off lap for him, I think, before he goes again. Tim Law improved on that previous lap with a 44.0, and it looks like he's going to improve again, and it's a 44.0 again. But I don't think that matches his session 1 time, does it?
He is still half a second off his session 1 time, unfortunately.
Because he's 0.02 behind NFL in this session, so NFL having a great run in his Ford GT, and he improves to a 43.9, finds another 10th, so he's now just pulled away a little further from Tim Law in this session, but is still 4 tenths short of taking that position away from Tim Law to fight for the podium, I believe. Who is third of it? Is it John, or is NFL closing?
It's currently John with a 43.3, so they got some ways away, but all they need is 1 clean lap, and maybe and you can maybe find a second somewhere.
Yeah, so it's 43.3 John, 43.5 Tim, and now 43.9 for NFL. I would like to think that NFL's going to get there, because he put that lap together really late in that first session. I was hoping he would go further forward. And we've seen here, lap 1 was a 44.0, and he's done another 43.9. So he is the biggest opportunity, I think, to improve in this session, because he's starting to come to grips with this car. It's a little late, but it's better than never.
I would remember last week as well in Road Atlanta when he was in the Hellcat Powered Challenger. He made 2 seconds gain on session 2 compared to session 1 lap time, so he's definitely one that improves as he gets more track time in his cars. It's not too late for NFL to get the podium here at Watkins Glen.
I mean, the way you say that, it's as if practicing makes you faster, and getting time in the car makes you better at driving a car. Couldn't be some of the people we know, but NFL doing a great job here. He's only 3 tenths down on himself on this lap. Only 3 tenths down, so he's been really consistent this session with a 44.0, 43.9, and this is going to be another 44, but it's not going to be as competitive. And it looks like it's sitting on the traction control at weird times in a straight line, so that car is very power limited.
Either that, or I'm guessing the traction control is turned it a bit high. Maybe I'm guessing a traction control 2.
I mean, it was activating when he was in a straight line with like nothing going on, so I couldn't work out why it was activating, and he actually lifted off the throttle to get back on it to try and reset the traction control, which was very surprising.
Some very strange behavior by the Ford GT's traction control here, being intrusive in the wrong timing and not coming in when he needs it to. Maybe some adjustment on the settings would work, and he just took him off. As you can see, he just took the traction control off.
I look forward to NFL spinning as a result of that, because he needed just a little bit of assistance, but hopefully it doesn't cost him too much in terms of corner exits, but it looks like he's just feeling for the grip.
He's just feeling the grip.
Or is he just doing a slowdown? Well, he's doing a little slowdown lap. Sneaky, I like it.
6 minutes left in this session. Definitely time to do that right now.
Yeah, the guy Tex crossing the line just now will get 4 more laps, and he's at 42.5. Lane's a 10th, Don't think that changes anything in terms of where he is relative to Flash, as he's still hard second. But Tim Law, 43.7. Now we're cooking for Tim. He's only 2/10 away from his PB. He's only 4/10 away from stealing second place from the original John. And that means he and NFL are legitimately close enough to steal the back of the podium, making real-time position changes here in this final session. 5 minutes and 20 seconds left. It is still all to play for here. There is not much left in these gaps.
It went under the radar, but Max TTS also posted improvement over his previous lap. He is sitting at a 148.459. His previous best was a 48.6.
Looks like he's coming into the pits to make some changes though. Respecting the entry lines like a lovely driver, unlike all the FIA drivers out there who were outraged at the pit lane lines having penalties in this game. Ridiculous nonsense. But so good driving there from Max to respect the pit entry lines, to now make a modification, as does NFL. We will see them with 1 or 2 more flying laps once they make these changes. NFL has been the king of last-minute changes to make it better live in that final session. As I go back to Tim, and it looked like he was having a good lap there, and they just missed the corner.
I'm guessing these tire changes are just for... I'm guessing these tire changes are just to reset the temperatures, really, for those final 2 laps to attack the track, basically.
Tim is 2/10 up at sector 3 here. If he can just get it through the final corner nice and clean,
Hex
he may
improves again! Go to a 42.2!
That's a great improvement. Tim 43.505. It is now his best lap across both sessions, but he is now only a 10.5 away from stealing 3rd place in the unlimited, unrestricted class. Ooh, it's getting tight here.
It's getting tight here.
Place. John is sweating. He doesn't know why. He's not watching the stream probably because he's off doing something. But he's sweating. Tim loses it before the car wheel spins without the traction control helping him, and only after the car is 45 degrees to the racing line does the traction control decide, maybe I should help out. Oh wow, he's trying very hard. NFL with some fresh tyres will get an opportunity. He will get 2 more laps, I think. He'll start 1 more and get another one after that. But at the head of the queue, it's Flash. He will get 2 more laps for sure.
It's worth noting that NFL did take new tires and some setup changes as well, so those tires are probably in their best condition on his actual final lap at the end of this session. Question is, can he put together 1 good lap to maybe challenge Tim and John for the podium place, for the final podium place here at Watkins Glen?
Just having a look at Flash. He's done a 40.1, he's done a 40.2, had another cool down lap on that one, and he is currently purple by a couple of hundredths in sector 1. But it's a really nice bus stop. This could be the one for Flash to break into the 39s. I know he'll be disappointed to finish on a 40.0 and not break into the 39s, and we will absolutely annoy the hell out of him, despite the fact that he's swept the classes here, despite the fact that he's winning this one. We're going to let him know that he didn't make a 39, he probably should have, because he had the lap but threw it away. Just to annoy him, because,
that was a good line through the boot as well. That was a good line through the boot, but it was down, it's down! It's down!
It's the left time! Bro, what?
It's
down. He turned in early.
Yeah,
he turned in early here. He was deep, and that's not the best line.
And he might.
Can he still get it
wide here in the transition? Oh.
But it's an exit. He did it last time. Remember, and he gets really clean exits.
Oh no, he's got it back.
Purple.
He's got the time back for some reason.
Yeah, because he got that clean exit. So he takes the wide line in. It looks bad, but he rotates the car nice and late. Oh, doesn't quite do it there though. And he didn't use all the exit.
I think he got on the finale. I think he got on the outside curb too much in the penultimate corner there. He didn't set himself up nicely for the final corner.
It's still a 40.158, 2,000 slower than the previous lap he did in this session. But he starts his final lap here, probably with unoptimal tyres, and if he's going to make it happen, I don't think he will. Yeah, a lot of lifting there. Although the way this car accelerates, you can't tell if he's on a lap or not, because it's just so fast all the time. And Max PBs! He PBs coming onto the final lap with a 47.9. That's a 5/10 improvement for him. if he can continue this, he's using all the road in turn one. I don't think he realizes that's going to give him dirty tyres. He's going to have a bad time going up the hill. And yep, there's the big lift as he understeers.
Oh, here we go. Tim Lor will get another lap.
Tim gets one more. NFL is on his final lap, but he's chasing Max, so he might have a bit of a problem. He's 3/10 down already. Oh, it's a big slide through the bus stop. Oh, just hangs on to it, but I think that was a net lose for him. And he's going to have to pass Max, I think, on this final lap. I can't see many improvements coming, as it looks like everyone has cooked their goose a little bit in the first sector of the final.
Tim is improving by 2/10 in sector 1 right now.
Oh, really?
He is 2-3-4 up on his own time.
All right. Flash is 500ths purple at sector 3, but runs wide for the second last corner again. Didn't get it turned back the way he needed to. Last corner this time, he gets it nicer down on the apex. Gets on through nice early, but not wide, not early enough. Doesn't run wide in the final corner, and it's going to be a 40.2, sorry. And he does not improve. It is 3 lap times in half a second. I'll let you take coverage for the final sectors.
Tim Lor now coming out of the boot. Oh, he's lost time. He's only 53 thousandths up on his best time right now, going into the heel.
Look clean though.
It's clean. Going on the transition.
Didn't get back
too
the way
tight.
he needed to. It's like it lacks front and rear grip, this car.
Tires might just be too narrow for the power it has,
Yeah.
I feel like.
It feels like the GDR rotates in the mid-low speed better, even when they're off throttle. And then it just obviously struggles getting all of that horsepower to the ground. And it's a 43.530. He's unable to improve, but it's a very, very good effort from Tim Lor there at the end. Just carrying the wheel spin all the way up the straight and still holding on. But it is the indomitable, the absolute king of Watkins Glen with a total sweep every session, every class. The Flash 05, congratulations, winning in Unlimited, winning in Modified, winning in Clubman.
Definitely really good job. Well done here for Flash, bringing 3 very fast cars and driving them to very fast lap times here in all 3 classes as we run down the final results of the Unlimited class here at Watkins Glen. As mentioned, we have the overall winner, Flash 05 in the Nissan Skyline R32 GTR Nismo with a final lap time of a 1 minute 40. You get there, 1 minute 40.027. It was only just a little over a tenth off here in session 2. In second place, an impressive second place for Big Tex in the C7 Corvette with a final lap time of a 42.238, 4 tenths found here in the second session. In third place will be the original John T, holding on to it in the 4-rotor Mazda 3 with a 43.324. In fourth place, a valiant effort here from Tim Lor, improving slightly the second session, finishing with a lap time of a 143.505. And then we have here in fifth place is Big NFL and the Ford GT with a final lap time of a 143.905 in the first session. Again.
Oh wow, so he was 400ths off.
Barely getting to it in the second session. And a massive improvement here, finishing in sixth place, is Max TTS in the Audi TTS Coupe with the final lap time of 147.9. His previous best was a 48.6 in the first session.
So huge gains there, which he put together on that last lap, because he was 48.4 early in that session, and he put together that lap to run 47.9 at the death bear and takes a huge chunk down of his previous best.
Very huge gains here for Max TTS. You gotta wonder what car is he gonna bring up next time. And speaking of which,
he does the same trick but with a different model car.
Speaking of which, The next round of the Vertex Super Lap is probably one that everyone's been looking forward to. We are going to the Mecca of Time Attack in Japan. We are going to Tsukuba Circuit in 2 weeks' time.
I feel like you and I have a different definition of enjoy and expect and look forward to. But Tsukuba is such a tough track to get right with the constant corners, the tight hairpins. There's 3 of them and they're almost back to back. You get 2 corners on the layout that aren't hairpins. It is such a tough layout. The little chicane in the braking zone in Sector 1, the whole layout is incredibly tough to get right. Even at the best times. And then when you start throwing around these 1,000 horsepower missiles, it is going to be ridiculous watching these drivers try and hang on to those cars around there next week. I'm looking forward to that, but I think the drivers got their work cut out for them.
Definitely. And now we have reached the end of the second round of the Vertex Super Lap Series here at Watkins Glen. I've been Noir and Terrace. Thank you so much to Styx TC here for joining me here in the booth, and we will see you all again in 2 weeks' time for round 3 at Tsukuba Circuit. Goodbye, everyone.